generation of warfare, psychological warfare. In modern conflict, the mind is a potent weapon. Discover General Michael T. Flynn's groundbreaking guide, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. Unlock tactics, strategies, and the mindset to navigate this cognitive battlefield that we all find ourselves in. Equip yourself against manipulation and emerge unscathed. Unleash your potential. Order now.
That came at the special request of a special woman watching the program tonight. You guys, welcome back. June 29th, 2026. It's like, where the heck's Alpha been? Well, if you follow any of the work that I do, and hopefully I'll start getting some 5x5s in the chat so I know that you guys can hear me, because we're rusty, folks. We're rusty tonight. You guys haven't seen me live since last Tuesday. As a matter of fact, Wednesday had the Operation Gladio show set up for you guys. Colonel was pumped up about it. I was pumped up about it. It was going to be a pretty interesting show. There's the 5x5s. Thank you. And the hotel that I was staying at just did not have the powerful Wi-Fi internet that I needed to stream. So I was like, God. You know what I was like? I was like, let me just start emptying out these F-bomb jars, right? It was just like, the thing doesn't work, F-bomb. I can't get to my audience, F-bomb, right? And then I was like, you know what? Your approval is not required. But then for me it was. So I said, you know what? Oh, pump the brakes, Alpha. All you got to do a little is I drink coffee for your safety. Mug life. You know, it was very frustrating. And it's when you have fun little things like stool sample and, you know, F-bomb certified. Alpha, where are you grabbing all these cool things from? Well, I'm glad you asked. Thingsofholding.com. And when you use promo code Alpha10, that's 1 and a 0, you're going to get 10% off. Thingsofholding.com. You're going to see that link across the bottom of the show at different times tonight. Support those people, because I'm telling you, I almost wanted to throw the thing. I was so pissed. But it's glass and it's cool. I don't want to check it out. Do you guys want to see it one more time? There you go. F-bomb jar right there. F-bomb. Deploy responsibly or don't. We won't judge. But my apologies to you guys that we couldn't make it happen on Wednesday. I did my best and I finally made a commitment. I am going to get the Starlink mobile. And it doesn't matter where I get deployed, where we're working, where a GART takes us. We are always going to be able to deploy the AlphaWarrior Show. So I'm going to make the investment. I was hoping I didn't have to because those things ain't cheap, but we're going to do it. We're going to do it. So what else have we got going on tonight? The final act. This is going to be a good one. Let me rewind for a second. Just for those of you that are like, what the heck are you talking about with GART? Badlands Media, the Great American Restoration Tour. We just wrapped up this last week's event at Deadwood, South Dakota. Beautiful place if you've ever been there, not too far from Mount Rushmore. Didn't have a chance to get out there this time because we were just too busy with what was going on. But there was a lot learned in that event, and some things that kind of I'm going to work on to grow and mature this podcast that we do. And I even hate referencing it as a podcast because it's so much more than an information war, right? Like, I kind of look at this like a briefing or a debriefing, you know, for me and my troops. I see you guys as my troops. So, but we're going to get into the final act, the Iraqi Purge. That one's going to be fun. Fauci COVID-19 operation, fraud, fake. What's going on? That one's going to be very compelling, folks. And then nothing's happening. White House continues to go Q. What's next? You guys are going to love that. Of course, if you can tell when I bring it up on the screen, you're going to be like, that's a whole lot of tabs, Alpha. Yes, but we are going to stick to this. We're going to keep it at about 2.5 hour show. And whatever we don't finish tonight will be on Just Alpha 2.0 tomorrow, as well as a special guest appearance that we're going to have tomorrow. So that kind of wraps up all that stuff. So with that, if you guys are like, Alpha, how you doing with the gym and all that? Well, I didn't get to go this week because I was out taking care of business, trying to save this country. But you know what? Neutronics Labs. Testosterone booster. You guys have heard me talk about these guys a lot. This is with nitric oxide, the NO2, and the IGF plus. Listen, I'll tell you the basics. It's going to support your immune system. It's going to burn fat. It's going to help with your muscle building. It's going to help with your joint health. It's going to improve sleep. And they even have another powerful formula, organic, that's going to help you with your sleep. And one of the great things about this stuff, and this is the IGF-1 plus that they're going to give you for free. This is a 300,000 nanograms. I use the million because I'm a beast like that. But it's also going to help you combat stress, the cortisol. It's going to boost your energy and your libido. And this is what I'll tell you. Not to start off, on an emotional plea, but we got to take care of our bodies, folks. I heard a lot of stories from people that were open enough to share them with me, this past week. And then I got some really bad news tonight regarding, someone in our family. And it is right. And the story is important. It's not one I want to share because it's family. But what I will say, folks, is take care of yourselves. I feel bad that I haven't done that show I was going to do for you guys, where I was going to show you guys everything that I take on a daily basis. So I got remotivated tonight to do that, and we will. But again, Neutronics right here. You wanted to get that. And the place where you're going to get that is neutronicslabs.com/alpha. And if you want an additional 50% off, do the auto ship. And you'll get that platinum bottle of IGF-1 completely free of charge. Plus, you'll get an extra 10% off. That's right, 50% off and an extra 10% off when you use code ALPHA. So with that, folks, let's get into the show tonight. Let's bring this up on the screen. Let me reposition ourselves and let's shake off the cobwebs. Hopefully I give you guys time to populate it. Here's the thing I need from you guys right now, like not later, right now. Because we missed 5 days of shows, our algorithm on all these platforms is probably nowhere to be seen, right? So what I need from you guys is to help me out. Share this out right now. Share it on an email, share it on a text, share it out on your different social media platforms. Just get everybody to the show so that we can see it. And I was like, where am I hearing an echo from? And I just realized it. And I don't think it was coming through the mics, but I did realize where it was coming through. County, man, we're shaking this off and everybody's still saying 5x5. Okay, we're good. So let's get into this. You guys saw that opening video, right? Let me get this set up. I promise you guys, in about 15 more minutes, we'll be flowing. You guys are like, come on, get your shit together, kid. I know that's what Miss Ray of Freedom Fighter is probably saying, talking all kinds of trash. But we started off with tonight as we stand on the edge of our 250th year of independence. I am thrilled to declare that America is back. This is our heritage. This is our history. And this is the destiny of America to be the greatest, most incredible country to ever grace the earth, President Trump. And I like that for so many reasons. One, on the heels of coming from a place like Deadwood, which is like traveling back in time to the days of the cowboys, right? The great Western movies that we see. But also knowing that, I'm in the vicinity of Mount Rushmore. Also kind of seeing everything that's coming out. And what I'm finding is that I'm running into people that have just completely lost hope and faith, or I'm running into people that, are kind of where I'm at, motivated, pumped up, not naive to, we still got to be concerned with things that are going on, but they know because they have information. And I think the key to where we're at right now as an American populace, an American community, is those with more information seem to be more balanced out. And those that don't have a lot of information and are just kind of relying on headlines seem to probably just have a whole lot of cortisol going on. And so, folks, not just for the purposes of helping me, but share this stuff out with your neighbors and your friends and your family, even the ones that have ridiculed you, because there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen over the next 100 days. And People are going to be looking for guidance. People are going to be looking for reassurance. And trust me, even with all the information that I have and Josh has, every now and then we need a little tap on the shoulder that we're on the right azimuth. And we got a major one. And we'll be talking about that tonight. Again, we'll be talking about that tomorrow at DEF CON. But I promise, for those of you that ride it out to the end tonight, you will not be disappointed. And when we get into part 2 tomorrow, you will also not be disappointed. So let's keep going and get the news out, and we'll get in. So let's get into some good news. Stan Beaton from West Yorkshire had kept a saved voicemail from his late wife, Ruby. During a technical upgrade with his phone line, the voicemail was accidentally deleted. A team of 11 engineers worked for 3 days to search backups and archive systems, successfully recovering the message despite low odds. Sometimes love is not found in grand gestures. Sometimes it's just hidden in one saved message. For 10 years, a 68-year-old man listened to his late wife's voicemail every day just to hear her voice again when it was accidentally deleted. And then again, the people came through and they rescued him. This is the way, folks. Compassion, empathy, love, and action. These were 11 people that they could have felt sorry for them. They could have been moved by it, but they followed that love and empathy with action. And even though this isn't a headline about wars and economics and geopolitics, this is a story about something I want to remind us as Americans that we have. And are we using it? And hopefully we will, myself included. So there's a little bit of good news. Now let's get into the battles. Rapid Response 47 puts 2 major earthquakes that just hit the great people of Venezuela, are most massive in scale and have left a devastating number of deaths. The USA stands ready, willing, and able to help. I've instructed all agencies of our government to get ready to move quickly. We will be there for our new and great friends. Early reports are not good. President DJT. Then we get Rubio that comes out. Again, Rapid Response 47 reports on this. Quote, we're already deploying search and rescue teams. In a quote, Secretary Rubio on earthquakes in Venezuela. We're also helping with some overhead imagery, especially in coastal areas where they don't have full visibility or what the damage has been. We'll have a better assessment of their long-term needs after the next 48 hours. I know a lot of you kind of been tracking this. This is, again, a few days ago when this happened. One thing I found interesting is that overhead surveillance that they have going on for them. Again, this is something that's going to be used to help them, but also just shows you that we are also still monitoring Venezuela like we're probably still monitoring Cuba and Mexico and other South American countries, as well as Middle East countries. And then if you want some really good news, Donald Trump puts Department of State against impossible odds, hope endures. American search and rescue teams rescued an infant from beneath the rubble following the earthquake in Venezuela. Every life saved is a victory. And right there in just a few moments, you're going to see the first responders there. They have the little baby wrapped. And they're handing the little one off. All that devastation, a whole bunch of strangers, or maybe not strangers, but there's a baby that was rescued. Now, hopefully, some family, if not all the family, is able to be rescued in that as well. But again, there's some just good people doing good things. Then we get to this. This one's interesting, folks. Homeland Security. 12,000 ancient artifacts seized. Customs Border Patrol agents in Tampa intercepted thousands of ancient items believed to be stolen from the Eastern Mediterranean areas, including vases. Check this out. I do have this one for you guys to listen to. This is wild.
Homeland Security in Tampa has intercepted what may be the largest seizure of ancient antiques in the agency's history. Spectrum Bay News 9's Andy Cole got a look at the priceless evidence and learned why this work matters.
It is definitely old.
From vintage vases to age-old pottery and archaic coins, Homeland Security agents in Tampa are analyzing more than 12,000 items seized by Customs and Border Protection.
A lot of times they'll find illegal narcotics or counterfeit merchandise, whatever the contraband may be. And in this particular case, they found what they believe to be, possibly stolen artifacts.
While they couldn't get specific, Homeland Security officials say the pieces came from the Eastern Mediterranean before being intercepted in the Tampa Bay area. The items, some of which date back to more than 4,000 years ago, are now being authenticated, tagged, and preserved by a mix of in-house and academic partners as investigators trace back where they came from.
What we're interested in is how did the person who has custody of it at this time, how did they come into custody of it? We've seen in other cases a lot of times that ISIS is actually involved with this. They hire people who perpetrate that crime of acquiring or stealing these items and then selling them on the black market, ultimately to receive that funding.
It's unclear if these seized items have terroristic roots, but what you see now is just a small selection of the antiquities. Many more have already been cataloged and boxed away. As for the price, likely in the millions, but according to Homeland Security, they're priceless. All await their final destination, a repatriation back to the cultures that created them.
This is one of the few crimes that we work where we're able to identify, locate, and recover, a precious artifact like you see here today and return it to the rightful owner. And it's a wrong that was made right. That's a good feeling at the end of the day.
In Tampa, I'm Andy Cole, Spectrum News.
Whole lot that you could pull out of that one. One is, did they find these artifacts because they're looking for artifacts, or did they find these artifacts because they're actually legitimately targeting other things like human trafficking and child trafficking, or maybe even some type of weapon systems that people are trying to get into our country? All of them are on the board. Who knows? But again, very weird story. So for all you folks out there in Florida, if you got more, let me know. Then we get into this. The U.S. Army, the final frontier, now an Army branch. We're proud to announce the new U.S. Army Space Operations Branch, solidifying our role as leaders in the space domain and ensuring our soldiers have the advantage from the ground to the stars. This is at Space Operations Branch, U.S. Army. You know what? Listen, where are my Marines? All right. Listen, Commandant. All right. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Army, listen, great. So you guys want to do logistics in space. All right. Space Force. All right. I want to do the technical stuff in space. All right. I get it. But we all know when those praying mantis looking aliens, right? Star Trek troopers pop out, you want the Marines. I want to see the Marine Space Operations Branch. We're the only ones that know how to go out there and do things to skulls that no other branch can do. So Alan says, wow, the final frontier. Is it though? I'm telling you, I've been watching some crazy videos. When you're on a flight and you get to watch these videos and do a whole lot of research, and it did force me to be able to look into some things I wanted to that I just don't normally have the time to. Man, I don't know. Maybe I can convince Josh this Thursday we can do, but this whole simulation theory is pretty wild if you want to go Rick and Morty. But I'm not going to go on a tangent because we got a lot to get through. Fox News reports breaking: U.S. forces kill senior ISIS leader in Syria. Now, why is this important? Here's one of the reasons I'll say. Eric Doherty puts out terrifying. This is Dearborn, Michigan, folks. Dearborn, Michigan just went maximum Islam, flooding the streets and making clear they're here to conquer, not assimilate. This is why Islam needs to be repelled. Islamist flags waving. They want to end the West. Now, I think a lot of people feel like it's got to be one or the other. Well, I think there's, Mossad propaganda that's out there. There is. Well, when we look into who created the bills that got a bunch of Muslims back into the United States a couple of decades ago, those guys were Jewish in our Congress. They were. It doesn't remove the fact that these people came here with extreme ideologies. Now, again, do we have to address the process of how they got here? Because I think that was operational. Absolutely. But it doesn't mean just because another group that means to undermine the culture of the United States did it, that we're just going to pretend, well, they're not bad. This is bad. This is absolutely bad. And these are things that we need to be paying attention to. And again, there's several videos that are out there, but I mean, this one makes the point. Then we get, oops, I hate when the X tab does that. I hope we don't lose this. If we do, I'll ad lib. Don't worry. This is some just great news. Harmeet Dillon, boom, huge case. This was one where we at the Civil Rights co-authored the amicus for the U.S. Department of Justice, a great return to sanity and historic presumptions. In a 6-3 vote, the Supreme Court struck down Hawaii's rule that banned carrying guns on most private property that is open to the public unless the owner gave explicit permission, holding that it violates the Second Amendment and 14th Amendments. And I actually do have a video lined up for you guys on this one. I hope. Here we go.
Immigration. Shannon Bream joining us live once again to break it all down for us. Shannon, what do we know?
Okay, so Bill, let me tell you a little bit about the gun case. This was out of Hawaii, where if you have a concealed carry permit, which takes some doing there, the presumption under Hawaii law was that you couldn't take it on private property unless you got express permission from the owner of that private property. So things like shops or restaurants or really any private property. Well, the court shut that down today. They say that arrangement would impose a new burden on permit holders, people who've gotten these concealed carry permits, who will have to somehow obtain permission to carry a firearm on the property before stepping foot. They say the Hawaii law here violates the constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Big win for Second Amendment folks and supporters there. This other decision dealing with the border was about if you have to arrive in the U.S. to start an
Again, folks, we have an administration, they've been doing this since last year, that is leaning very pro Second Amendment, not just in rhetoric, but actions like this. Now, I have my theory. I haven't shared it because I didn't want people to take it out of context and then create a level of stress. But obviously, you guys know I've been in this Second Amendment battle with the state of California going all the way back to the tyrannical FBI J6 stuff that went down. So you guys know I've been tapped into it. But this has been an issue, especially in California with the Ninth Circuit, with, quote unquote, assault rifles and, large capacity magazines. You've had the Supreme Court already make rulings that should obliterate these legal battles that we have surrounding the Second Amendment in states like California and others. But they're not. They're doing these word plays. And now you're having these things come down. But what's interesting is not only are they fighting it, waiting for things to get to Supreme Court, but Harmeet's team, this civil action team of the Department of Justice is actively going and suing these people. This is very proactive, and it's going to put the rush on these other things. Now, why? Why all of a sudden the sudden push for the Second Amendment? Well, some would argue, well, because this is what this administration do is help protect and secure Second Amendment. And I would say, yes, that's the easiest answer. But also consider that this could be this administration telling the deep state, we're going to position Americans that if you try to go sideways and you try to do this the hard way, we're prepared to do the unthinkable. And are they pushing to have an armed America protected by law as a way of using that as an intimidation tactic against the deep state? It's just something that I've considered for quite some time now. Again, I didn't want to put it onto a broadcast because I didn't want people to take that out of context. But you get what I'm saying is I think of it more as we're willing. If you don't want to do this the way we want, this white hat trust the plan operation that's in play, then the American people, we're going to make sure that they are positioned to win should it come down to that. Again, another conversation. Don't want to go too far off on the track, but I just wanted to get your guys' thinking caps on with that. Leading report puts out Dominion Voting Systems has dropped its $1.3 billion defamation lawsuit against Mike Lindell and MyPillow over claims that the 2020 election was rigged and stolen, according to court filings. Now, did Dominion drop this lawsuit because they knew that they would lose? Did Dominion drop this lawsuit because they feared that even if they won, what would be exposed in discovery was going to be too damaging to them? Or was it they knew they would lose and they knew in the process of losing that discovery was going to destroy them and also reaffirm all the positions we have? I would go with a choice Charlie, right, on that one. I truly think that they were trying to ride Mike Lindell to cost them so much money, to bankrupt them, to weaponize almost blank checkbook that a lot of these organizations like Dominions of others had. And Mike dug his heels in the sand, not just for him, not just for his company, but he did it for America. And we know he did it for America because the whole reason he got into that position in the first place was he was fighting for America. And he did that at a time that he knew it came with the cost. And this is one way that I measure a lot of patriots. Are you doing the things you're doing and saying the things that you're saying right now? Because now it's safe to do so. It's popular to do so because you want to ride the coattails of patriots that did it when it wasn't safe. And granted, I'll appreciate that. And we need more people to jump on board. But if you did it when it wasn't safe to do it, and you did it when it could have cost you everything, those patriots, like Mike Lindell, have a real special place in my heart. So, continuing with that, Donald Trump puts out breaking: Dominion Voting drops its lawsuit against Mike Lindell. The company formerly known as Dominion Voting Systems, now operating as Liberty Vote. The names they choose, it's just crazy. They're like the opposite, almost like these bills that corrupt governments try to pass, right? They say it's one thing, the Patriot Act, but it's really anti-patriot. The company formerly known as Dominion Voting Systems, now operating as Liberty Vote, has agreed to dismiss its $1.3 billion defamation lawsuit against Mike Lindell and MyPillow with prejudice, meaning the case cannot be refiled. But that's not the only bombshell. Released alongside this news, Election Crimes Bureau has unveiled what it calls a historic evidence dossier on the 2020 election. 800 plus pages, 824 findings, 2,517 citations. 5 years of compiled research, court records, sworn testimony, government documents, and technical forensics. The report, titled "The 2020 Election, an Attack Upon U.S. Critical Infrastructure," remember that, because that came from an executive order from Trump, details 10 alleged attack vectors involving voting systems, election records, certification processes, information control, foreign interference, and more. People have been told for years there is no evidence. This report does not ask you to trust us. It asks you to read the evidence, check the citations, and decide for yourself. Mike Lindell says, anyone that ever says there's no evidence, this is like a library. It's a historical library with 100% evidence that backs each thing up. Take a listen to this.
We begin today with breaking news. A major legal battle involving Mike Lindell has come to an end. The voting technology company, formerly known as Dominion Voting Systems, now operating as Liberty Vote, has agreed to dismiss a $1.3 billion defamation lawsuit against Mike Lindell and MyPillow. Court filings show both sides agreed to drop all claims with prejudice. That means the case cannot be refiled. The lawsuit stemmed from Mike's repeated claims that Dominion helped rig the 2020 presidential election, allegations the company strongly denied. The dismissal marks a significant end to one of the most closely watched election-related lawsuits stemming from the 2020 presidential race. I am just celebrating the good news coming out of this. Tell us about this legal case and what the latest is.
Well, here it is, everybody. This is the second one now. Remember, the evidence, the $5 million challenge got overturned last summer, and they said Mike was right. This is all about the voting machine evidence. And now yesterday, if you don't see it in the news, they did one article out there from Law and Crime. Dominion dropped the lawsuit against Mike Lindell and MyPillow. That was yesterday. So, and I just want everybody to know it doesn't mean anything that I'm going to stop fighting these voting machine companies to, it was a nice gesture, but we are going to go, we're all in to get them, get rid of them, get to paper ballots hand counted. And here I'm going to announce right now, it should be within the next half hour. We're going to be posting on Lindell TV, everybody. It's 800-page historical drop of the voting machine evidence. This has never been seen before. A lot of it we have bits and pieces were out there. This has been compiled over the last 5 years. This will be right here on Lindell TV. It'll be posted, like I say, in about 20 minutes. We're doing a press release on it, and anyone that ever tells you then, Vanessa, that ever says, oh, there's no evidence, this is like a library. It's a historical library with 500 and some articles and 100% evidence that back each thing up. This was actually part of this given to the president when he was told by when he walked off that's reporter a few weeks ago, and he retruthed it. So it's a very exciting day. We're going to tie in, all this stuff going on, and then but it is people, it is a relief for me that I don't have to, my pillow, which never did anything when Dominion sued them for $1.3 billion with a B, everybody. And my employees had to sit and worry about that because their CEO is out there practicing his free speech. And so this is a big relief. So we got 2 down. We are also appealing. The appeal just went out. It'll go out today. The Colorado case that MyPillow won a year ago. Vanessa, you were there. MyPillow won, and this is the last piece of that where we're putting in the appeal, and hopefully they rule on that very fast. It seems like the voting machine companies are falling like dominoes here. And then we have the last one you'll see in the news, Smartmatic here in Minneapolis. That's like a parked car. It's sitting there because if everybody remembers, the judge made a ruling before even going to trial that I defamed them, and then a week later it came out that Smartmatic is in fact committing crimes with their company, with their voting machines and against other countries, and that'll, a lot of that'll be coming out too. But that was funny with that one because I'm going, okay, a week after this judge makes this ruling here in Minneapolis, it all comes out that yes, it's a criminal organization. Basically, it's like I defamed the mafia, right? I figured it'd be like my cousin Vinny going, okay, in light of the new evidence, case dismissed. But according to my lawyers, that's now how it is. It can just sit there like a parked car, and judges can sit on it as long as they want.
You gotta love the man. I mean, you got to love Mike, especially knowing his personal story. But let's not forget about that folder that Mike walked out holding when he had that meeting with President Trump during his first administration. I wonder if that helped with the confidence that Mike was operating with. Nonetheless, it's a great move. It's going to bring this evidence out to the open for people to review. The link, I'll drop it into the description after the show when I do the editing. And again, if you want to go and support Mike, go to mypillow.com/alpha, because Mike, for those of you that don't know, this is what's pretty cool. Mike from MyPillow was the very, very, very first Patriot company to support this program when we had no other sponsors, when everybody's like, you guys are crazy with the stuff you talked about. Mike Lindell, MyPillow, was the one that put his brand, his name, and his company's reputation behind podcasts like mine and others. And that's why, so long as he has a company, I'll do my best to support it with the help of you, my audience. Again, mypillow.com/alpha for Mike. Let's keep going. President Trump comes out. This is solid, folks. If y'all think when they say, Trump's embarrassing us, especially after coming off of a presidency with Biden, check out what President Trump said in this post here. Let me make it a little bit bigger so it's easier for you guys to see. I know some of you guys are watching this on your TV screens. Trump puts, numerous European countries have been discussing the imminent implementation of a digital services tax on American companies. Some of these countries are close to actually doing this. Please let this statement serve to represent that any country that imposes such a tax will be immediately met with a 100% tariff on any and all goods sent to the United States of America. This tariff will supersede trade deals made with the country, whether implemented, signed, or not. Additionally, the 100% tariff will be immediately imposed if they proceed. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Folks, we have a POTUS that as soon as he hears, and here's the thing, the intelligence apparatus, right? Everybody that's, the ambassadors, these words come, pretty swiftly to our president with regards to America when people are working these things. And Trump isn't someone that's going to be like, well, when they do it, let's have a plan of action to deal with it. The second he realizes that countries out there are going to try to do something to us, Trump says, yeah, the bird, if you think you're going to do it, this is what's waiting for you. And for those that are like, well, other countries, last year when he started to impose these tariffs on everybody, remember the big old, tariffs going up between us and China? He's already shown them, I'll do it. And so these countries that were considering doing this digital services tax on our American companies, our president said, FA, FO. I think that's pretty solid. Great president. The Gateway Pundit reports, acting DNI Bill Pulte has fired over 50 career deep state intel officials. Now, let's think about this. Tulsi Gabbard goes in to the Office of Director of National Intelligence. She gets in there. One of the big things she does last year is tell us that there's a RICO case into Russia. And then following that, she does a lot of big moves. But the next big one that we would probably all agree upon is she comes out and starts talking about Fauci and starts talking about the COVID operation and huge. She has the issue with her husband developing a rare cancer, as it's reported, and she acknowledges. She goes to deal with her husband. And so then we get the acting director, Bill Pulte, to go in. And then just to catch everybody up, in case you missed the last couple episodes or the last couple of weeks, Democrats and the Republican establishment rhinos lose their mind over Trump saying Pulte is going to be the new acting DNI. They start saying, he better not appoint them. So right out of the gate, we knew from the Democratic side and the Republican side that they were not ever going to confirm this guy. So we knew we had 210 days with him tops, and then he would expire. That would have put us towards, I believe it was the last weeks of January. So then Trump makes these negotiations. We hear about Jay Clayton. I told you guys about Jay Clayton. I'm not going to rehash all the DNI story. But one thing we did talk about last week is Trump saw that they were trying to play him, right? With the person with the lawyer he was going to have replace Jay Clayton in SDNY. And he just puts a halt to all it. Says, nope, Pulte's going to stay in there until all these things. And this guy over here gets confirmed in this and this. He completely exposes the playbook of what they were going to try to do against him. Again, for those that say that, Trump doesn't know and Trump's being ill-informed, the guy's an absolute genius. So then he comes out and he says over a couple of interviews, yeah, I want Pulte to fire some people. Yeah, I want Pulte. And then all social media, Trump's all talk. Well, one, we know he's not. Venezuela and Iran is evidence of that. But nonetheless, this is the rhetoric and propaganda that the agents, provocateurs try to push on social media, right? Because morale is a weapon and they want to create despair. Well, Pulte comes out and we have 50 career deep state intel officials that get their walk-in papers. Now, as information that's been reported to me, some of these were people that everybody thought were secured and they got walking papers. Does this have something to do with leak operations? Why so many from the Office of Director of National Intelligence? One of the things that a lot of people, and you guys have probably heard it in other podcasts as well, is there's a war right now between the CIA and the ODNI's office. There's a war that's at play. Which one do you think is the really bad one? You guys can let me know in the comments, but I have a feeling I know which one you're going to pick. A couple more, and then we're getting to the themes tonight. Rep. Anna Paulina Luna comes out and says, influencer disclosures are coming. This is something I've been telling you guys for quite some time. For a few years now, especially following October 7th. This is not, I know a lot of people think, oh, it's going to be the big influencers. Not just the big influencers. What I will tell you guys, as information has been shared with me, you have social media personalities, smaller personalities on platforms like X, on platforms like Facebook and Instagram, that they're getting knocks on the door and phone calls from federal agencies. And these people that thought that they were safe because they were small, maybe only dealing with a few dozen people, they're gonna, they are now feeling the pressure. And it didn't take long for people to start calling other people and let them know, hey, did you get a knock at a door? So what I will tell you, because I've infiltrated some of these groups, because that's what I do, is there is a level of panic in these groups that is absolutely glorious. They don't trust each other. People are blaming each other. People that haven't gotten visited by the feds yet are being accused of being visited by the feds and then snitching on information because they're saying, well, you're the only person that knew. So I'll just tell you from the information that's going out there, not only is there panic in DC, there's panic within the operatives on social media, podcasts, and alt media. So be happy about that. And the last one, we're going to get into it because this one kind of sets it up for the next conversation anyways. Carolyn Levitt comes out and says, tomorrow at 12 p.m. on Capitol Hill, President Trump will sign into law the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, one of the most significant pieces of housing affordability legislation in American history. This bipartisan bill includes policies long championed by the president. It cuts unnecessary red tape, helps increase housing supply, and limits the ability of large institutional investors to purchase single-family homes. As the president has said, homes should be owned by American families, not large corporations. President Trump promised to lower housing costs, and he is delivering, making it easier for every family to achieve the American dream of home ownership. Tomorrow's historic bill signing is another promise made, promise kept. Now, of course, the operatives would immediately jump to this, and the community notes would come and attack the press secretary. This says, President Trump on the morning of 6/24 announced that he was canceling the planned signing of the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. Now, again, he did cancel it on the morning of the 24th. But if you can see right here, the press secretary's post was the day before on June 23rd. So again, they want to come and try to attack these people. But the question is, why? Why did he cancel it? And before we get to that, we got a couple of rumble rants and some super chats that came in. So let's give some people some love that are showing this channel some love. $20 coming in from Kaylee71. Welcome back, Alpha. Missed you and Josh. Keeping you and your family in prayer. Also, go Navy. So there you go. $10 coming in from Sting Tammy. Great show. I saw the Sunday part 2 session of GART. You guys were on fire. Just want to say thank you for your service and your patriotism. Thank you for that, Sting Tammy. And then Sting Tammy also became a monthly supporter. Thank you for that. Thank you both. And then over here on YouTube, we had a super chat come in from, I think I can share this on the screen, Sherry Beltran 4026. Welcome home. God bless America. President Trump, Alpha, your family, and all the beautiful patriots in the chat. So with that, why did Trump all of a sudden not sign this? Well, let me tell you guys why. Let me just get this adjusted. Rep. Clay Higgins comes out and says, damn straight. What's he talking about? Trump posts on Truth. Today's housing news conference and signing is hereby canceled until such time as we pass the desperately needed Save America Act, which I consider to be a national emergency. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. So remember, earlier we get the post where we're talking elections as infrastructure. That goes back to the executive order. Very important. Now we have Trump saying, hey, I consider this to be a national emergency. If you guys have been following my podcast for at least the last few months, you know this is something that I have pushed that is going to be coming down before we get to midterms. These are all signals that it's looking like I'm pretty dang accurate on my assessment of where this is going. Now, some would say, yeah, but Alpha, the Housing Act is a good thing. It is. It's a great thing for our country. And how many people are going to be pissed off now that it's not signed? A lot. Republicans and Democrats. They're going to be pissed. And when they start to say, hey, Trump was he was supposed to sign this on the 24th and he didn't. What happened? And then people say, oh, because they don't want to sign the Save America Act. Then that anger gets redirected at, well, who are the assholes that don't want to pass the Save America Act? Because guess what? It's not just Democrats. It's establishment rhinos as well. And just to recap, because it's important, and I want to make sure everybody's up to speed, at least in the general concept that I have here, is that the Save America Act is not going to pass. And this is the reason Trump has been pushing it so hard, because he knows this. That's why he tried to have them attach it to the recon bill. We're going to have a couple of videos. I don't want to get ahead of them. But Trump says Trump has taken a lot of measures to get this thing to pass. So they can't come out and say, we should have tried this. And he has been trying everything. And when Democrats, independents, and Republicans ignore the titles, when Americans all start to see, because remember, Mike Lindell's information's coming to the surface, Tina Peters' information's coming to the surface, the China stuff from John Solomon is coming to the surface. You're having all this overwhelming information. That's not speculation, it's evidence. And we're going to share some here in a little bit. It's going to blow your mind. People are going to be like, why isn't this passing? It has to pass. And this is what's going this public indictment against government, when we're talking specifically the Senate in this matter, when this public indictment's made against them, Trump is also that indictment against them is going to be the court of public opinion of support for Trump for what he's going to do next. Because remember what he's saying right here. I consider this to be a national emergency. This has been outside the executive order to put elections as infrastructure. This post right here is probably the single most important post that he's done to prove that my assessment is probably accurate on where this is going. So let me just keep moving on to a few other ones because I don't want to, get ahead of myself. Donald Trump goes and he trolls Andrew Colvette's post on Truth. Breaking, Rep. Byron Donalds just went nuclear on the U.S. Senate, failing to pass the Save America Act. Now, we don't have a lot of videos tonight, but we do have a few that are pretty long. This is one of them. It's about 3 minutes, but they're long, and I edited them a little bit, but I didn't want to edit them too much because they are important. So not a lot of videos tonight, but we do have a few that are going to be a little lengthy, and this is one of them. So let's take a listen to what he says.
Byron Donalds.
Man, the Senate sucks. I'm just going to come out and say it. They suck. This is not hard. 80% of the American people want the Save America Act to pass. Not 80% of Republicans, 80% of the American people. And the only organization that refused to act is the United States Senate. Everybody else is saying, this is common sense. We should do common sense things. Let's make sure only Americans are voting in our elections. Makes sense, right? Let's protect the franchise of the American people. Let's make sure that people who are sent to Washington are being voted on by Americans. Who the American people choose is up to them, but we have a responsibility to secure that franchise and to secure that process for the American people. And what is happening in the U.S. Senate is laziness, and quite frankly, it's disgusting. What? The Senate Democrats don't want to have voter ID in America. Why? Because they want to maintain their power. Senate Republicans don't want to do the right thing and actually have a true filibuster on the floor and debate the matter on the floor, because it would take them away from their precious meetings that they have to conduct. I'm sorry. They have a responsibility to open up the Senate floor and debate this issue in front of the American people. I agree with Chairman Harris 1,000%. I want to hear what Chuck Schumer has to say on the floor in full debate about why he opposes this measure. I want to hear what Elizabeth Warren has to say about why she would oppose this measure. I want her to tell the people of Massachusetts why she believes that the people of Massachusetts should not have to show a photo ID in order to vote in a federal election in the United States of America. Just the other day, President Obama opened up his presidential library in Chicago. You needed an ID to attend the event. So if you're going to show up for President Obama's library, you got to present a voter ID, a photo ID to gain access to that event. But to vote in our elections, you don't have to do that? That makes no sense. It's crazy and it's stupid. And so the United States Senate has a responsibility to open up that floor, use Senate procedure, actually have a debate. You have a filibustering debate. If Bernie Sanders wants to hold the floor of the U.S. Senate for 6 months, let him. Go ahead. Swap out the Depends. Get some body armor. Somebody slip you some whatever you need. Keep it going. Because it demonstrates the stupidity of your arguments. And that is what the American people want to see. I, for one, want to see what their argument is. But we're not getting that because, and to be blunt, because we have Republican senators who still believe that the U.S. Senate is operating in 1990 America. That is ridiculous. The Democrats are true radicals. They don't want to negotiate. They don't want to debate. They want to obstruct. They want to obstruct common sense.
One, I already like Byron Donalds. This thing just made me double down for the guy. One of the things that I've started to see, and it's not like was hard to see, but you got to be looking for it, right? But some of you probably recognized it even before I have. It's starting to see, or at least seem like, President Trump positioned certain people in the House and in the Senate so that he could be tapped into everything that's being talked about in their closed door meetings. If you guys remember, George Santos, right? Republican, went through all that, got convicted. They sent him to prison. He got released. Trump pardoned him. I think one of the reasons, well, there's a lot, I don't want to divert too much here, but they attacked him. And I think one of the reasons they attacked George was because he was coming into these virtual town halls that we call X Spaces, and he was sharing information. And he was talking about how behind the closed doors, there's certain things that were shared. Now, he wouldn't tell us the specifics or context of what was said. But one of the things that he told me when I specifically asked him, well, what was this? He goes, well, I can't tell you because the culture is the second you know, this is where people need to feel safe to talk, right? And you know me, so I'm like, F that, right? We're the constituents. They shouldn't feel safe. They're our representatives. But, you know, it's these backdoor dealings. But he would tell us the kind of the temperament, you know, without sharing the specifics of what was going on there. Well, one of the things that I think is, yes, you know, George Santos and others wouldn't share with us the information. But if Trump has people that he's positioned inside the House, inside the Senate, they would be privy to those conversations, meaning Trump has insiders at the most powerful place. So with that understanding, I think one of the key things that Byron said here is we want to hear their arguments. And I don't think he's saying like him. He knows their positions. We know their positions. He wants America to hear their positions. He wants Democrats to hear these people come and sell them why they don't want IDs when Obama's saying you got to have an ID to go visit his library. Like this is the stuff that's just, it's common sense. It's moronic, but these are the positions they have. So let's keep going. I think we're doing pretty good on time. Anyways, Trump retruths this. And now again, these are videos and posts that Trump's retruthing. And when Trump posts something, I attribute a level of importance to that. Regardless of the person in the video is someone I like or I don't like. In this video, I'm not very happy with Chip. But nonetheless, the video is important because Trump put it out there. So let's take a listen to this quick one.
On his strategy.
Well, the president is committed to ensuring we have election integrity in this country and to stop all the fraud that we've been seeing in elections throughout the country. I'm the proud author of that bill, as you all know, in the House of Representatives. As you noted, we've passed it 3 times. And look, the Senate is dealing with it. They're dealing with their filibuster rules. We called long ago, last year, that they should be modifying their rules or using what we call the talking filibuster to force things through. Now, they haven't done that as they've navigated through other things. The president is trying to force them to take action to lead. Now, wherever they land on the SAVE Act, he's saying, look, move it on FISA if you need to, move it on the housing bill if you need to. Let's talk about it in the form of any reconciliation bill we do. The president is rightly saying, guys, figure it out. Like, that's the way the president works. He's pragmatic. He wants to see us get stuff done. So he's telling the Senate, quit hiding behind things and figure out how to get this done. The truth is, the American people want to see us deliver, whether it's the SAVE Act, whether it's codifying the border security provisions that the president's been putting in place that we put in H.R. 2 in the last Congress. We believe we should pass that, send it to the Senate. Maybe we should pass the stock trading ban, of which I'm also the proud author of the first bill that did that. Let's ban members of Congress from enriching themselves while they're in Congress. There are things that the American people expect us to do. The president is right to tell Congress to get off its behinds and get stuff done for the American people.
Trump, I'm telling you folks, and I know you're like, he's going to declare a national emergency with our midterms. This is, I mean, if I'm wrong about this, I guess it's still going to be a win because it means that we're going down an easier pathway and I can eat some crow for that. But I don't think that's the case. I haven't had one hiccup in this assessment. We're getting more confirmations that this is the direction we're going, which has really put a lot of pressure on me to get this Substack article done for you guys, but it is huge. But let's keep going. Eric Dowdery puts huge news. The U.S. Postmaster General has just told Congress that the post office will not deliver mail-in ballots in the 2026 midterms to states who refuse to comply with President Trump's election integrity executive order. This order makes sure mail-in recipients are citizens and are who they say they are, on top of making mail-in voting more secure. Let's effing go. Don't let the Dems defeat this in court. Let's take a listen to Trump.
Take some time, and I'll make this signature absolutely perfect, so it looks very good. So far, so good. Okay, so that's a big deal. Very proud of it. And I don't know how it can be challenged. You'll probably challenge it. You may say, find a rogue judge. You get a lot of rogue judges, very bad people, very bad judges. But that's the only way that can be changed. And hopefully we'll win an appeal if it is. But I don't see how anybody can challenge it. I don't see how they can challenge it.
He goes, I don't see how they can challenge it. He knows they're going to. Shout out to CanCon. He's the only one I've ever heard that's picked this up. I've shared it, and a few of the people that I've talked to about it are aware of it. I still don't hear enough people talking about it. Whenever this becomes official, it has to be done in a timeline that allows the states to argue it. And as I understand it, we passed that threshold already, which means even when this becomes official, they're going, and this is when Trump says they might find a way to challenge this. I think he already knows. I think he knows about this specific statute with the timing that CanCon found, and I don't have the specific date, so forgive me on this. I'll see if I've shared it on the post where we talked about it at length. But I think what they're going to do is they're going to come out and they're like, everybody's excited about this, right? Because this is a good move, right? This is a strategy. But then when it gets rug pulled because the courts come out and say, yeah, good move, but you guys should have implemented it during this time to give them the legal threshold of days that they need to combat it. And it didn't happen. So now you can't deploy it. People are going to be like, well, now they're going to cheat with the mail-in ballots. And they would be right. So remember, all this he's putting into the atmosphere. Let's keep going. The Skiff puts out, this is a little bit of a longer read, but it's important. So I want to read this one to you guys too. Let me zoom in just to make it easier on my eyes and yours. The Skiff put significant findings from the new 799-page Dominion documents and stolen 2020 election. Ballots exceeded voters in 3 divisive states in the 2020 election. Michigan, 499,850 more ballots than voters. A margin of over 154,000. Pennsylvania, a little over 155,000 more ballots than voters, where a margin there existed of just over 80,000. Georgia, Fulton County alone, 22,534 more ballots than voters, with a margin of almost 12,000. You're like, oh, why do I know these states? Because these were the states that were all over the media. Each discrepancy independently exceeds its state's margin of victory. The Public Interest Legal Foundation documented that Pennsylvania distributed approximately 3.1 million mail-in ballots in 2020, and that 440,781 of those ballots were classified unknown, meaning election officials had no record of what happened to them, whether they were returned, not returned, counted, or discarded. Pennsylvania's certified presidential margin of victory was 81,660 votes. The number of mail-in ballots whose chain of custody could not be reconstructed exceeding the certified margin by more than 5-1. This is insane. In Delaware County specifically, officials destroyed election night paper tapes, ordered the Blue Crest ballot sorter wiped of all November 3rd, 2020 data immediately before open records production, and failed to produce required return sheets from more than half of the county's precincts. What if you guys are getting as pissed off as I am, it's because what I'm reading to you from a detective mindset, which is where my background comes from, what I'm reading to you is a criminal conspiracy for theft and fraud, amongst other things. This is why it's probably pissing you off right now. The digital records, logs, images, cryptographic hashes were wiped. Antrim's county election management system had all 2020 adjudication logs manually removed while prior year logs remained intact. Think about this. If it's an issue of space, if it's an issue of past practices, they did this to 2020 while the old ones were still kept. There's no way to justify this. Just over 68% tabulator log error rate that triggered mass adjudication cannot be audited because there is no record of who adjudicated what. Maricopa County's EMS database and Windows security events logs were deleted or overwritten, and 284,412 ballot images were found corrupt or missing. In Mesa County, Colorado, a state-supervised Dominion trusted bill deleted 28,989 files from the EMS server, including at least 695 log and event log files required by federal and state law to be retained for 22 months. Shout out Tina Peters. This woman was persecuted for securing evidence to prove all this stuff. Remember that, folks. In Fulton County, Georgia, SHA authentication, can't speak, files for 132,286 of 148,318 absentee ballot images were intentionally removed. 17,852 ballot images were missing from the official recount, and the county admitted in federal court it did not preserve the majority of in-person ballot images for the November 3rd original count. These findings describe not isolated mismanagement, but a layered collapse of election integrity in precisely the jurisdictions that decide national power. Now, I would argue that it's far, far more sinister than this, because you're talking about things that were manually done in some of these situations. This is not a collapse of integrity. This is the sabotage. This is the criminal actions of a criminal enterprise of what's going on. Inflated rolls create capacity for fraudulent ballots. Broken poll books and voter histories server the vote to ballot link, ballot custody gaps, and mass adjudication obscure which ballots are real and how they were interpreted, manipulated, or opaque tally systems convert those ballots into unprovable totals, and targeted destruction of logs and images eliminates the forensic trail that could expose or disprove manipulation. From a national security perspective, this means U.S. election infrastructure, formerly designated as critical infrastructure, is currently a high-value, low-risk target for foreign intelligence services and aligned domestic networks, and that the United States lacks both the evidentiary resilience and the deterrent posture expected of a system that allocates sovereign authority. Why are we using machines built in other countries with parts coming from other countries with people that have access from yet other countries? Fictitious ballots and ineligible registrants were injected at scale. Just under 7,000 fictitious ballots identified in at least one state. Thousands of ineligible registrants entered via a 1/1/1900 placeholder birth date. Private NGOs obtained real-time API access to statewide voter files without public contracting or security vetting. System destruction of ballot images. And you get it. And it goes into more details of that. Ultimately, this is the part that it argues and that my opinion would agree with. The 2020 election was stolen. That is where we're at, folks. This for everybody that says, where's the accountability? Where's this, folks? This president, when we say let him cook, what we're saying is do our work. We are the pressure point. We are the pressure point for his work. So don't take the misunderstanding of when people say, let the president cook, to be like, you're going to sit your happy ass on the couch and watch all this movie. You are a part of the movie. And however it looks from us getting to where we're at, where we've been, where we're at now, and where we're going is directly correlated to your action. And these things need to happen in mass. Trump needs to see publicly, not in secret, not in private text groups, not in podcast live chats. Trump needs to see publicly that the court of public opinion is behind him to do whatever he needs to do, unrestricted warfare. Not everybody agrees with me here, but whatever he needs to do, unrestricted warfare to secure our elections. And again, he is not going to violate the Constitution, but people's lack of knowledge and information and the fact that the deep state propaganda mechanism is going to make it seem that way is going to create a constitutional crisis if we aren't publicly behind our president and at the same time educating everybody. This means when I finish this work that I'm doing on Substack surrounding what I think he's going to do, and it explains the history and the precedents and what it's going to look like and what legal justification exists for that with statutes and everything else, it means that when you guys take the time to read it, it's going to be a long ass time to read because it took a long ass time to create. You are going to have to then take that knowledge and understanding and share it with your coworkers, the people at the gas station, the people at your church, because a lot of people who don't watch these podcasts and don't read the information we have out there, who are just going to watch MSNBC and Fox, because they're not going to be on his side either. All these senators and stuff that have been like, oh, it looks like they're lining on. The establishment is going to be, in my opinion, this is going to be the final exposure of the entire establishment. Democrat, Republican, independent, NGOs, their lobbyists. It is going to expose everything. I see ZBM says, what is a Substack? I haven't finished it yet. It's still in the works. Hopefully, I wanted to have this thing done like 2 months ago, but it's very long. Hopefully, sometime in the next 10 days to 2 weeks, it'll be done. But I've talked about enough of it, so you at least have that. But just to answer you, ZBM, I'm not done with it yet. I'm prepping you guys for when it does come. Let's keep going. Pete Santilli, this is the video. This video is just under 7 minutes. This video is important. If there was anything that you were going to clip tonight, and I'm going to show a bunch of great stuff, but if there was anything that just had a level of importance on a scale of 1 to 10, this would be a 12. This is it. These next 7 minutes, whatever you're doing, you're brushing your teeth, stop. You're washing the dishes, stop. Whatever you're doing, put all distractions aside, and for the next 6 minutes and 38 seconds, pay attention to every detail of this video. I'll see you guys on the other side.
And then I walk you through the history of how that company was controlled by this group of people here. So it was created in Venezuela, then they created a company in Delaware back in 2000. Then this company got a contract from the Venezuelan government to do election and develop a software. That software, which is called SIZE, ended, transported, moved into the United States when they acquired Sequoia voting system in 2005. And I want you to pay attention to the person in the bottom, Mark Malloch Brown, because it's going to give you an answer to how this was controlled by people that you are familiarized with. So then we found that George Soros, since 2008, has been embedded into the structure that was managing this company, and they were exporting, with the help of elements of the US government, this software through the world and inside the United States. And I have to tell you that in our investigation, we have found, unfortunately, people compromised from both parties. So this is not just one side of the aisle, both sides. I want to pay attention to this specific document. When Smartmatic purchased Sequoia and installed the new software, they go to California, which was already in the portfolio of clients. Governor Schwarzenegger was in charge in California. And they come with a new software. When they install the new software, the laws in California at that time required that if you bring a new software into the state, doesn't matter if you already have an existing contract with them, you have to provide the source code, which is the equivalent to a DNA of the software, into the hands of expert designated by the Secretary of State of California for review. That happened, and those 8 engineers from UC Berkeley, Pennsylvania, and Davis produced a 360-page report that we got access to it. That report in 2007 established that this software was built to steal election, not to administer election. For that reason, state of California revoked the license of Sequoia and told them you have to leave the state, which they did. But they stay in the rest of the country. But when the Republican lost the governorship in California and the Democrat took it over, they changed the law. And what company took over the election in California? Dominion, with the very same software that was revoked. Not only, it's even worse, because in 2018, Smartmatic come back to the United States. Where? LA County. Does anybody in this room believe the last election in California was fair and clean? Well, that's a Smartmatic. California today is ground zero for election problem.
Does Smartmatic own Dominion?
No. We do have a relationship. We are competitors.
Were you associated with the late Hugo Chavez?
Absolutely not.
Do you use a Venezuelan company's software that's been used to steal election out of the countries?
Absolutely not. Anderson, I can cut all of this short. We were founded in Toronto, which is where my family was from, and there's nothing to do with Venezuela.
Can you flip votes in the computer system? Can you add votes that did not exist?
Absolutely not.
So this is in 2023. My business partner and I started exposing this and working with the Department of Justice. There were few U.S. attorneys that were career officers during the Biden administration that were patriots who decide to take the risk to investigate this. And against all the marching order receiving from Washington, they kept an investigation open. God bless them. Because those are the people who are making this to be exposed. But Mr. Pezzulo, who wrote the book, neither my business partner and I ever has been sued by Dominion. We want to be sued. I'm waiting for the lawsuit. They haven't sent me a lawsuit, Smartmatic, because we want to bring our engineers and say, okay, let's go. They started suing Fox News and Sidney Powell and everyone. The people they knew cannot get to the bottom of this. At the moment, and here's an interesting part, at the moment the Department of Justice in San Juan, Puerto Rico, confiscate the system of Dominion, the whole environment, the whole ecosystem of the election, under the request of Tulsi Gabbard, Dominion got sold weeks later. And they shut down the company. Dominion as a company do not exist any longer. So you cannot subpoena emails, you cannot do anything, they disappear. So the question is, how is come that the company who controlled 30% of the electoral market of the United States abandoned the most profitable election market in the world because DOJ took over images of every component of the system? So this is a big question I ask to you guys. Why are we doing this? Why it cannot be American made? Why we have to use a Canadian company with a Venezuelan software with Chinese? What can go wrong?
Shout out Pete for posting a phenomenal clip on that one. For those of you that don't know, Pete Santilli was the first one to air my story as well back in, that would have been early, mid 2021. So I've always had a soft place for Pete showing me that love. But folks, did you hear this? Now let's just, before we get to this next clip and carry on, and we'll kind of revisit this later as well, because it does come up again in a different conversation that still has a nexus. Does us going in and snatching up Maduro from Venezuela hit a little different now? Does the information about military Venezuelan whistleblowers that happen to be jailed with Maduro start to make sense now? Does the information, I know some people don't like them, but all of a sudden, does the information that Patrick Byrne and General Flynn and others were sharing surrounding Venezuela start to make you go, oh, shit, maybe there's something there? And then on top of that, I hope you guys caught it. This is why I wanted you guys to pay attention to it. Did you hear the part where he said, when Tulsi Gabbard, acting as the ODNI, went after, made requests of Dominion, shortly thereafter, the company dissolves, gets sold, and ceased to exist? Now all of a sudden, that lawsuit getting dropped against Mike Lindell makes a little more sense. Well, if 2020's passed, why does that matter? Because there's a formula here. If you go back and you look at what we all experienced from 2021 to January 19th of 2025, this country got attacked from the inside. Whether it was COVID, whether it was the FBI and J6, whether it was, the Catholic parents, whether it was just parents at school board meetings, whether it was gender mutilation, whether it was military getting rid of our service members because they wanted to have, body autonomy. We could go down the list of everything that happened to every American in this country, all a result of what? A stolen election. At least that's what it's starting to look like, for my opinion. So we survive on that one that has a red logo on their platform, right? All this matters not because we can go back and redo the clock of 2020. We don't have that kind of time machine. But because that is what's going to create the argument that our elections, which is considered critical infrastructure, are compromised at every level. And that everything that we're seeing in different states, include California, are showing that they want to continue the process that allows this theft, that allows the vulnerabilities of this critical infrastructure. And then Trump is going to come out sometime between now and November 3rd. And I think it's going to be closer to, because he's not going to allow them a lot of time to react to it. He's going to come out and declare a national emergency, federalize our elections, and it's going to look like a certain pathway of things to come. This is what I'm talking about. This is what's going on here. And shout out Kelly Brat 10. Kelly Brat says they just dropped the link in the chat for a longer video of that segment that I just showed right there. Kelly Brat, if you don't mind, put that link in the comments too, so the people that are watching the replay can go and see that. And after the show, I'll go and pin it to make it easier for folks to find. But thank you for posting that. Now, with that, as we put a little bow on this section, you just heard all this argument, right? Now, some of you through this whole entire process of the last 17 months have had a soft place for Thomas Massie. And rather than me talk, let me play a little clip for you. This one comes from America, California 47. Thomas Massie insinuates there's no election fraud. He says one good thing in here, but listen to everything.
I'll vote for the SAVE Act, but I think it's a distraction from our real problems. I think it's ironic that we control the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and the White House, and we're yelling election fraud. I mean, we won all the damn elections.
Listen, there's election fraud. I know there's election fraud. And this establishment, politicians want us to think, well, look, Trump won. You guys won. How can that happen if fraud existed? Because they want us to become complacent and not expose, destroy, and remove the mechanism that created it. That's a dangerous, dangerous statement. And what he's implying there, or what he's I'll agree with Eric on this, what he's trying to insinuate. So with that, folks, before we shift gears, we had a couple of rumble rants that came in. Let me get a shout out to the people that support this show. $5 coming in from Ellen S. 333. Great show. Thanks for all your work, Alpha. Thank you, Alan. Thank you for being one of the OGs always here. And then shout out to Kelly71 that didn't just drop a Rumble rant earlier, but also became a monthly supporter. Thank you for that. And Dollar for Dollar with ZBM. Wait, you know Pete Santilli? Love that guy. And I am so bummed he isn't on LFA anymore. You know, all the best people, Alpha. Also, I have to tap out because this mama is pooped. Cheers, y'all. I do know Pete. I have a lot of stories with Pete, and I do consider him a friend. So yeah, he's good people, and everything happens for a reason. So, and he's doing good things with the thing that he's doing. And then let me just peek over here at YouTube, see if there's any super chats that came in. No, there's not. All right, so we can continue with that. So since we're here and we have this pause, let's take a moment and get to one of our Rumble sponsors. Let me bring this up on the screen. You should see it populate in just a second. There we go. Patriot Cash, check it out. Get patriotcash.com/alpha. Grab the bag, and get the knife. All right, folks. So I've carried a lot of bags. You guys have seen me post some pictures of these bags from time to time. Range bags, EDC bags, travel bags, you name it. I've had them all, still have them all. And most of them, they look the part, but fall apart the second you actually put them to work. One thing I've learned over the past is you get what you pay for. And sometimes we try to cut corners. So this one's different. The Patriot Cash Tactical Shoulder Bag is running MOLLE webbing across the body, meaning you can attach pouches, clips, whatever your setup calls for. The zippers are full length, two-way, actually smooth. Thank goodness for that. Water-resistant fabric, micro mesh padding on the back so you're not sweating through your shirt, because we all know that. And it's fully adjustable. Designed in the USA with actual military use in mind, not just military aesthetics. A lot of times you'll get one and look super cool and you realize this thing doesn't serve the purpose because it put Velcro in all the wrong places, and now I'm picking up thorns and leaves and all that trash. Here's where it gets interesting. Right now, Patriot Cash is doing a giveaway. 500 of these bags free. Normal retail is $79, but you just cover the shipping, and they're stacking a tactical strike pocket knife on top of it. Razor sharp, compact, the kind of blade that actually earns a spot in your carry rotation. And that's also free. So look, not going to oversell it more than I already have. It's a sling bag, but it's a well-built sling bag from a company that actually gives a damn about quality. And right now it costs you nothing but shipping. That's a hard deal to argue with. So folks, the link's in the description. Get Patriot Cash. That's CACHE.com/alpha. Grab the bag, grab the knife, and go actually use it for something. That's the whole point. And if you're like, Alpha, I don't see a QR code or anything on my screen, that's because you're not watching on Rumble. But you can come over here later. You can get into the description, and that link will be there for you folks. And then another one of our great sponsors, and we didn't get to them at the beginning of the show, we're going to get to them now, is the great and wonderful Pet Club. We'll be right back.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
Now you can get that Pet Club at AlphaWarrior247.com. Those links are down in the description. You guys know how much I love Pet Club. Take it every day, in the morning, in the afternoon. So you'll love it. And again, if you are someone that's taking it and you've seen the great results from it like I have, and you're in the chat, let your Patriot brothers and sisters know how much you love it and what it's done for you, if you don't mind sharing. You don't have to get TMI in there like some of you guys do. I know I'm guilty of it too. Let's get into this oil stuff now. The big oil companies are not dropping their price at the pump, commensurate with the sharply lower prices they are paying for oil. Imagine that. These prices are dropping like a rock. In other words, customers are being gouged. I've instructed the DOJ to immediately start looking into this. Gasoline prices better start going down a lot faster than what I've been seeing. President DJT. He's been calling these people out by name. That brings us to this. Eric Dowdy puts oil is plunging nearly to $70 per barrel, and the fake news can't believe it. Watch gas go with it. Things are playing out just as President Trump predicted after the war ended. And if you've been watching over the last few days, they don't want to give Trump flowers over this. They hate this man. It is crazy how the mainstream media, Trump derangement syndrome, affects theirs. I saw one of them. This was, I think it was earlier today. And it says, given the peace deal that's being renegotiated with Trump and Iran, oil prices are now going up. And so I was like, what? Oh, they shouldn't be going. And I went and looked, and it was up like less than 10 cents. It was like 7 cents or 6 cents. So yeah, it was up. But they made it seem like it was like, going into like the upper $70, and we're literally talking less than 10 cents. So again, this is the weaponization of what's going on. But again, if you don't mind, because I'm curious, because I like to track this data, let me know what state you're in. Don't get more specific unless you want to, if it's a big state, but just let me know what state you're in, and let me know what gas looks like for you. If you're in the chat, drop it in the live chat, or if you don't mind, drop it in the comments. That way it saves a little bit earlier or a little bit later. I'll appreciate that. But let me know what you're paying for gas and what state you're in. I'm just trying to gauge something that I want to talk about a little bit later. But that takes us into what's going on with this whole Iran stuff, right? Mario Nafal puts, the U.S. Senate just passed the Iran Powers Resolution, an act that blocks military action against Iran unless there's congressional authorization. If Trump strikes Iran again, he would have no way of justifying it under any emergency executive power. Remember, research this stuff, folks. The midterms are now effectively an election that will decide how much leverage Iran will have over the world. And I've seen a lot of people panicking about this. So let me read you some stuff that's on the notes that are right here to the side. The original post reports that the U.S. Senate passed a war powers resolution on Iran 50-48. This is accurate. Directing the president to remove U.S. forces from hostilities against Iran unless Congress authorizes further action. But here's the information that's not told in this. And this is why I tell you guys to go and research. It passed the House earlier back in June, and it was 215 to 208. 4 Republicans, Collins, Murkowski, Cassidy, and Rand Paul, joined most Democrats. Shocker. But the post frames it as blocking Trump from striking Iran without approval with big midterm implications. Here's the fact that I want you guys to understand. This is a concurrent resolution, which means it's non-binding, right? You see this in the notes. It does not require the president's signature, has no force of law, and cannot legally override the president's Article 2 commander-in-chief powers. Presidents have historically treated similar war powers resolution efforts as advisory at best. So when you see all these people saying, oh, they are pulling Trump's power and all, no, it's not. This is narrative warfare. I'll give it that. Dang, some of you are in the $2 for gas. God, I'm hating right now being in California. Not to get distracted, but damn, in the $2, Jesus. Let's stay on point here. But nonetheless, what this does have an impact on, and one of the things that I do agree with on the way Mario reported it, is as Trump's in these peace deals, remember, when he signed the peace deal, they said they had 60 days where they're going to put this stuff into its conclusion as they hammered out the details. This is one of those things that's meant to, impact the leverage that Trump has in these negotiations with Iran. But again, that's only surface level, because if we remember, this is not really America versus Iran or Trump versus Iran. This is America. This is Trump versus the global deep state mechanism, the apparatus that operates in Iran as it does Lebanon and Israel and Turkey and every other country. This is what Trump's been doing with these Middle Eastern countries, which we're going to get to something that's fire here in a little bit. Let's keep going. The White House, obviously, this is a foolish violation of our ceasefire agreement. President Donald Trump, the Islamic Republic of Iran shot at least 4 one-way attack drones at ships traversing the Strait of Hormuz. One of those drones solidly hit the upper deck of a large and very expensive cargo carry ship. Damage was done, but the ship was able to proceed on its way. We knocked down 3 other drones. Obviously, this is a foolish violation of the ceasefire agreement, President Donald J. Trump. And of course, you've seen what we've done in the process. U.S. Central Command reports U.S. strikes Iran in response to attack on commercial vessel. Tampa, Florida, U.S. Central Command SETCOM forces conducted strikes against Iran on June 26 as a powerful response to yesterday's attack on a commercial ship that that was transiting the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. aircraft struck Iranian missile and drone storage locations and coastal radar strikes after Iran hit MV Ever Lovely on June 25th with a one-way attack drone. The Singapore-flagged cargo ship, Singapore, watch Tomorrow Night Show for that, was exiting the Strait of Hormuz along with the Omani coast at the time of Iran's attack. The unwarranted aggression against commercial shipping by Iranian forces clearly violated the ceasefire. Furthermore, Iran's dangerous behavior undermined freedom of navigation as commerce increasingly flows through the vital international trade corridor. CENTCOM forces continue to provide safe passage coordination and support to commercial vessels transiting the strait. The U.S. military remains present and vigilant to ensure all aspects of the agreement with Iran are adhered to, obeyed, and in full force of effect. Folks, what I would speculate here is Trump is targeting the storage and the buildings and tech that the deep state still has control of. Because remember, the deep state has to make Iran look like the aggressor. But Alpha, you said Iran is the aggressor. Yes, optically, surface level, as we would see it through the lens of a normie. But again, who's the one that is controlling, pulling the string for those triggers and buttons to be pushed? And that's the deep state apparatus. That's the way it's always been. That's how they facilitate these wars. Let's keep going. Donald Trump says the Islamic Republic of Iran shot at least 4 one-way attack drones. Again, we read this. We knocked down 3 of them, and this was for the ceasefire agreement. I'm not going to reread it again. Donald Trump says, now here's something that's interesting right here, okay? As you listen to Stephen Miller talk right now, listen to the song being played in the background. Most of you will probably figure this out by just looking at the image. But again, listen to the very faint sound in the background as Stephen Miller's talking. Now, again, listen to what he's saying because it's important, but also catch the audio that's in the back.
I want to just go back a little bit in history, if I have time, briefly. President Trump single-handedly stopped Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Beginning in term 1, when he tore up the JCPOA, Obama's Iran nuclear deal that made them richer and more powerful than ever before, gave them cold, hard cash, gave them hundreds of billions of dollars in financial support, and gave them a direct path to a nuclear weapon, which would not only change the balance of power in the Middle East, not only change the balance of power in the region, but change the balance of power in the whole world. Nuclear blackmail on planet Earth, its commerce, its energy, its trade, its national security. President Trump then, of course, took out Soleimani, one of the evil masterminds of so much bloodshed and mayhem across planet Earth. Then, Operation Midnight Hammer obliterates their nuclear weapons program, and now with Operation Epic Fury, he has decapitated Iran's leadership, he has destroyed their navy, destroyed their air force, destroyed their defense industrial base, all of these things to protect peace, safety, and security in the world. Now there's a new team in place in Iran, and a result of these negotiations, the United States is closer than ever before to inking an agreement that is going to finally create the roadmap for peace, security, and prosperity in the Middle East, and for solving this nuclear program once and for all. This is an extraordinary, momentous fulcrum point in the history of the world, and President Trump alone deserves the credit for bringing us to this point. I couldn't be prouder to be part of this administration and watch this happen and play out in real time.
Now, again, if you were hearing what he said, and I agree with 100%, President Trump has stopped them from having a nuclear weapon. But I would say not only did he stop Iran, but again, he stopped the globalist deep state from having it. Now you're saying, Alpha, you told us to kind of hear who was singing, what was being sung in the background. That is Christopher, I'm going to butcher his last name, I always do, Machio. And he's also the one that sings the Nessun Dorma. Now, I find it very interesting. If you guys know, that's the one from the movie The Sum of All Fears that has to do with going and stopping them from getting a nuclear weapon. And here, as Stephen Miller's talking, Newsmax is playing this one while Christopher is there singing his song, and they're having a conversation about stopping nuclear weapons. Maybe that's a coincidence, but I mean, come on, that we know he's sung it at a few rallies. I don't know. I just think it's one of those things where at least they're trying to get us to acknowledge it. So you guys can let me know what you think down in the comments. Continuing on with this topic, Vigilant Fox puts, J.D. Vance tells Bill Maher the United States has destroyed Iran's nuclear program. Maher immediately pushes back and says, hold on, their program isn't destroyed. By the time Vance finishes answering, Maher backs off entirely. He's really good at this. So, with that, now I'm not saying the song was Nessa Derma Ravelin. I'm saying the guy that sings it. He's famous for Trump's rallies singing the Nessa Derma. That's why I was saying pay attention to the person that's singing it. If you hear the song, you hear his voice. But with that, let's take a listen to this pushback with J.D. Vance and Bill Maher.
If we don't make the final deal, their nuclear program is still destroyed. They're still much weaker as a country. So my attitude is America wins either way. But I do think that what the president has done is asked us to do something that, frankly, nobody in 47 years of dealing with the Iranians has done, which is offer them an opportunity to fundamentally transform how they behave with the West. They've been the largest state sponsor of terrorism basically since they began as a nation, or at least as an Islamic republic 47 years ago. He's saying, look, if they're willing to change, we're willing to change too. If they're not willing to change, we still fundamentally have all the cards, and I think it's a good place for us to be.
But their program isn't destroyed. The nuclear program isn't destroyed. I mean, I don't know any of our objectives. And look, I said
what part is not destroyed?
Well, we didn't get in there. The whole thing was we have to get in there and see. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this.
Well, let me say,
we didn't.
First of all, so a nuclear program, and I'm hardly a nuclear scientist, I'm a lowly politician, but the thing that you have to destroy is their ability to enrich uranium, which has been destroyed. You have to destroy their ability. Well, because you need functioning centrifuges that can actually spin.
All the time we got to get in there and we got to get the dust.
Okay,
and we didn't get in there, so how do we get the dust?
So that's actually a separate question. So there's the highly enriched stockpile, which, by the way, was allowed to accumulate over 20 years of previous administrations. That enriched stockpile is something that we want to get. But, Bill, if we never get it, and the president wants it, and we are going to get it, but if we never got it, it's buried deep underground, and they don't have the ability to turn it into a nuclear weapon. So the program is functionally destroyed. We're just talking about, can we set them back even further through these negotiations?
Okay.
Now, I hope you guys are paying attention to that, because I see a lot of people stumble on this when they're confronted on social media. And I think he did a great job of that explanation. So with that, as we remember, we started with oil prices. We Trump acknowledging that the oil companies are trying to gouge us, because then they're kind of in a predicament, right? It's if they allow the oil prices to continue falling while some combat things are going on, then they're showing that doesn't have a direct effect on it. But then if they do, so he's really positioned them to put themselves in a bad spot. But nonetheless, as we have the gas prices going down and we have the conversations around they're not going to have a nuclear program, but we're going to keep flexing on them, we need to flex on them, it brings us to what else is going on. Now, this is old, but I just want to refresh our memories. The Great Purge in Saudi Arabia, 2017, 2019, was the mass arrest of a number of prominent Saudi Arabian princesses, government ministers, and business people in Saudi Arabia on November 4th, 2017. It took place weeks after the creation of an anti-corruption committee. Remember, it took place weeks after the creation of an anti-corruption committee led by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS. The purge helped centralize political powers in the hands of bin Salman and undermine the pre-existing structure of the consensus-based governments among Saudi elites, the deep state mechanism. The arrest resulted in the final sidelining of the faction of King Abdullah and Mohammed bin Salman's complete consolidation of control of all three branches of the security forces. It also cemented bin Salman's supremacy over business elites in Saudi Arabia and resulted in a mass seizure of assets by bin Salman regime. Now, again, you guys can go read more if you want on this. So just remember, let's just go back. It took place weeks after the creation of the Anti-Corruption Committee. All right. So remember this, and we know how much Trump and MBS love each other, right? Homies, brothers from another mother. Now, well, what the hell does that have to do with right now? Well, this is what I'm going to tell you. Let's remember one more thing. Why does Trump favor Iraqis Azadi? Okay, I'm just going to read a little bit here. Iraq's ruling coordination framework has been an intriguing journey that started with the United States' adamant rejection of the former Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki being appointed to head a new government that ended with President Donald Trump personally congratulating Ali al-Zaidi on his appointment as Prime Minister designate earlier this week. On January 27th, Trump threatened to cut U.S. support to Iraq if Maliki returned to power. So Maliki out, al-Zidi in. Trump likes al-Zidi, all right? Where are you going with this, Alpha? Stick with me. Aladdin reports breaking during overnight raids targeting allegedly corrupt politicians in Iraq. The Iraqi counterterrorism service reported discovered billions of dollars in cash at multiple residences. A photo purportedly showing part of the cash haul was leaked in the early hours this morning by an unidentified individual. The Iraqi Prime Minister, Ali al-Zaidi, addresses the nation after massive arrests of corrupt politicians last night. Got ahead of myself right there. Thought I had one more clip for you, but it's not. I must have took it down. The point being, here's what I'm saying. MBS does the Great Saudi Purge after the creation of that committee. Trump comes in and says, if this guy wins in Iraq, Maliki, no bueno. I don't like him. So al-Zalidi, however you say his name, wins. Trump likes him. They make the same thing, an anti-corruption committee, and all of a sudden, they start to do the purge in Iraq. What is this telling you? This is telling you that Trump knows how to remove the deep state apparatus in these countries. It tells you that the timing is impeccable of when he's doing it. These billions of dollars or millions of dollars, whatever the amount is that's being reported here, where'd it come from? Who did it? Is this money left over from who knows, right? It all gets into speculation. The point being is Trump is doing a purge in Iraq. Trump is going country by country in the Middle East and removing the deep state apparatus. He's removing their ability to have control. Why? If timing's everything, what does Trump know is coming down in the Middle East that he now wants to have Iraq secured? Think about that. He could have did it last year. He could have did it back when he was doing MBS. He's doing it now. So if he's positioning to maintain control over Iraq, that tells us that Iraq is going to be instrumental in either deterring something that they wanted to do. When I say they, I'm talking about the deep state, or something that Trump is going to do to combat against the deep state. We're going to see here pretty shortly. But again, that committee was built with Saudi Arabia and the prince. He does a purge. All of a sudden, that committee's built in Iraq, and then there's a purge. What's something we want to look for if there's a committee built in another one of these countries? What if Israel all of a sudden gets an anti-corruption committee? And if they already have one, what if the personnel switched out? And then again, after all this great stuff's happening, we come back to Thomas Massey. Remember how he shit on what we're talking about with the Save America Act? Well, of course, he would shit on this too. The war with Iran is unconstitutional. It's also illegal under the 1973 War Powers Act. Here's how much of the $300 billion will come from American taxpayers. The U.S. will give foreign aid, military assistance, tariff exemptions, etc. to the countries that will in turn provide money to Iran. This man works for the deep state, and I hope you guys recognize that sooner than later. Speaking of guys that just want to subvert this country, brings us to this guy. Kanoko Great puts out new. Tucker Carlson is now denying he blamed Israel for Charlie Kirk's murder, saying there's no proof of that. I'm warning against jumping to unwarranted conclusions. I'm just going to let you guys listen for yourselves.
By the way, like I did see something that you were on a podcast yesterday. You said you think Israel killed Charlie Kirk.
I did not say that.
I
did not say that.
Okay, what was the clip then?
I said, I've never said that.
Okay.
I know a lot of people, including in the Trump administration, who think that. However, there's no proof of that.
Yeah.
What I said was two things. One, I don't know when the command came down and from whom that we have to trust everything federal law enforcement says, but I'm not obeying that. We have a moral obligation to push federal law enforcement to do the job we pay them to do, which is to investigate the crimes fully. And so, for example, if there are people who predicted Charlie's death on Twitter, I think the rest of us can expect that they've been hauled in by the FBI for questioning, and I don't think they have been.
So, I don't know about that, but okay. I do know what what you're talking about, the Discord chats.
No, I'm specifically talking
TikTok.
I'm talking about the Twitter posts that seem to predict Charlie's death. Maybe that
I don't know if that's been investigated. I would love for that to be.
Yeah. So that's number one. number two, just because someone is shot by one person doesn't mean others weren't involved. And don't like berate me into accepting that assumption, because I would never accept that. Why would I assume that? And three, to tell me that you know the motive before the trial even starts, that he was killed for his views on transgenderism, maybe he was. Maybe it was more complicated than that. How would you know? You don't know. So stop yelling at me to accept a conclusion that you can't prove.
I hear you.
Why would you do that? This is my friend. I'm not, and by the way, if I was murdered, I would expect people who loved me not to jump to unwarranted conclusions, but to press federal law enforcement to do its freaking job.
Yeah.
And stop calling people names because they're asking you to do your job.
I think a lot of people did jump to unwarranted conclusions.
Maybe.
Though.
I don't know if they're warranted or not.
And, you know, right after the assassination, many people were with big platforms, not you, were saying that Israel was behind it.
Many people with big platforms were saying that he was killed for his views on transgenderism. And we don't know that, actually. We don't know anything.
But Charlie was killed as he was talking about transgender. And this guy, Tyler Robinson, seems to be in love with transgender people.
That may be absolutely true.
For me, and I think a lot of Americans, that seems like the most plausible situation.
Charlie Kirk was murdered.
Yeah.
And he was not murdered for his opinions on transgenderism, obviously. He was, I believe, and most people who knew him well, as I did, and was friends with him as I was, believe he was most likely murdered for his evolving views on Israel.
I love the way these people make these videos and just show the hypocrisy of some of these people. I don't even have to re-explaining that one. He just gets there, and I believe that's Alex Brunswick, I believe, if I'm correct, that Tucker's getting all pissy with, right? Don't do this, don't do that, and then you finish the clip with him doing that very same thing. Now, I do agree with Tucker on one point there, and that's just because Tyler Robinson may have been the shooter doesn't mean that there's more involvement. I think that is a realistic possibility, but you can't sit there and tell people it's not because of this when he literally inscribed things on the bullet. He literally was dating a transgender. He literally had these positions. Like, these are things that we just happen to call evidence. And you don't get to ignore evidence because it doesn't match the narrative you want to adopt. You just have to find other evidence that supports the narrative that you're taking, which in this case, you don't have that. And we've seen that. You know, I know some of you still love Candace Owens because you're just hard-headed like that no matter what we show you. But again, just want to remind you guys of the propaganda that's going out there. Now, to shift gears off this stuff and go into another one, let's get into Fauci. Rep. James Comer says, Dr. Fauci was warned by top scientists that COVID looked genetically manipulated and leaked from the Wuhan lab. Fauci dismissed these facts as conspiracy theories while playing mad scientists with dangerous gain-of-function experiments, all on the taxpayer dime. Rita Bronarama has a great video clip that's right here, so I'm going to hit play for us now. This is a very long clip, folks, but it's going to cover a lot. So if you're going to get a refill on a drink, do that now. Just make sure you have your AirPods in to listen to this, and we're getting into the Fauci COVID conversation now.
Saying Fauci misused taxpayer money for gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab and then lied about it. Joining me now is Kentucky Congressman James Comer. He's the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for being here. You led a multi-year investigation into Fauci and the origins of COVID. You've also questioned Fauci in a congressional hearing. What is your reaction to this? Would you bring him back in now for more testimony?
Well, this is more evidence of what we already knew. Dr. Fauci lied. He caused a great deal of pain for every American and most people around the world. The decisions that were made by the leadership at the time in America were based solely on what Dr. Fauci was saying, and now we know what we've always suspected, that he completely lied. He lied about funding gain-of-function research. He lied about the origins of COVID. He just continued to lie throughout the entire COVID debacle. You know, the decisions were made about the vaccines. If we had known at the time that this didn't come from a wet market, this was man-made, would that have had an impact on the type of vaccine that Americans were given that we now know probably has caused a lot of health problems as a result of the COVID vaccine? So we already did the investigation. And we already have criminal referrals sitting on the desk at the Department of Justice. The Senate did the same. The Senate Homeland Security also has criminal referrals dating back a year and a half on Dr. Fauci. We also, my committee, the Oversight Committee, did an investigation of the pardon that Joe Biden gave, all the pardons. And we concluded that Joe Biden wasn't at the table. There were no meetings with Joe Biden. The Constitution's clear. The president has sole authority to grant pardons, but there's no evidence that at the time that President Biden was even involved in the pardon process. They were signed by the autopen, but there's no evidence. And that was based on all the depositions we had with all the key people in the White House during the Biden administration. There's no evidence Joe Biden participated in the decision-making of the pardon process. So there's more than enough evidence. And what Tulsi did is outstanding. It provides even more evidence for the Department of Justice to begin taking steps to hold Dr. Fauci accountable.
Yeah, so do you think that the pardon is legitimate if, in fact, it was done by the autopen? I mean, that's the question now.
No,
because yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think it's so much the autopen as it is the fact that there were never any meetings that Joe Biden had with his staff on these pardons. The only pardon that Joe Biden signed was for his son, Hunter Biden. But let's take the autopen off the table. I know there's a lot about the autopen. I don't want that to be the defense. The defense is there were never any scheduled meetings on his calendar. There was not a single person involved in the pardon process, in the decision-making on who authorized the autopen that ever met with Joe Biden and discussed the individual pardon. So there's no evidence Joe Biden had any decision-making in the pardon process. So I think that alone is more than enough evidence to declare all the pardons issued by Joe Biden in the last day of his presidency null and void.
Yeah, I mean, this is quite extraordinary. I mean, here you have Anthony Fauci, the one person who knew everything. He was in charge of all this bioweapon money. He actually knew what was happening and where, and he knew that we had funded gain-of-function research. He knew that he used taxpayer dollars, and he actually did not come clean about it in President Trump's term. President Trump there is the president. He doesn't know what's coming at us. He knows, Fauci knows everything that the government has been doing in terms of funding this. And by the way, we knew very early in 2020 that this was not natural, that this was in fact engineered from a lab. We heard so from so many lawmakers. Tom Cotton was with me in March and in February of 2020. And here's what he told me. Watch this.
This virus did not originate in the Wuhan animal market. Several of the original cases did not have any contact with that food market. The virus went into that food market before it came out of that food market. So we don't know where it originated. We also know that just a few miles away from that food market is China's only biosafety level 4 super laboratory that researches human infectious diseases. Now, we don't have evidence that this disease originated there, but because of China's duplicity and dishonesty from the beginning, we need to at least ask the question to see what the evidence says. And China right now is not giving any evidence on that question at all.
What do they do at this super lab?
It's unclear, Maria. China is obviously very secretive about what happens at the Wuhan laboratory. That's why it's so important that we at least ask the questions and get the evidence.
So, Mr. Chairman, there you have Tom Cotton telling us in very simple, in no confusing terms whatsoever, that this likely came from a lab. So we all knew that, and yet after that, we notice that Fauci starts talking with the intelligence community increasingly. In fact, the intelligence community flagged an interview that I did with Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, and this was as part of the IC's investigation. Here's what he said on that day. Watch this. Rand Paul.
What we've discovered is that Anthony Fauci was destroying federal records, was encouraging other people to destroy federal records. That is a crime. He testified to the House a year ago and said he wasn't doing that. That's a crime to perjure himself. And so we will bring him back. I've asked him to come and testify this fall. If he doesn't come voluntarily, we will subpoena him. The question is he immune because of the pardon? I think that needs to be challenged in court.
And Congressman, that's exactly what you want to do, challenge it.
Yeah, the evidence is there. We spent many hours, Maria, bringing in the chief of staff for the Biden administration, the deputy chief of staff, all the key people around the president, Jill Biden's chief of staff, who probably had more influence than anyone on the pardon process down the stretch. And none of them could ever testify under oath that they ever had any discussions with President Biden about the pardons. I mean, that is overwhelming evidence. The work has already been done. I can't for the life of me understand why the Department of Justice won't do anything about Dr. Fauci. The pardon, not just Fauci's pardon, a lot of pardons could be declared null and void. The Biden family, you've got Adam Schiff and Jamie Raskin, all the January 6th meeting, they all got pardons. They can be thrown out. Because, again, there's no evidence Joe Biden participated in that. So I think that what Tulsi did puts more fuel on the fire, more evidence. And look, our children are still suffering the consequences in public schools today because they didn't go to school for over a year. They missed out on a whole year of learning because of Dr. Fauci's lies about COVID and where it originated from and the severity of it. Now we know this was a major cover-up. I would argue the biggest cover-up in American history. And, if something's not done, this will happen again, Maria.
Well, countless lives lost, seniors doomed, children doomed, as you just said. They were out of school. Do you believe, had Fauci come clean and said, yes, the U.S. has been funding gain of research. Yes, I also directed money there. We thought that it would be better to do it this way, that lives would have been saved?
I do. And I think the vaccine would have been constructed differently. I think the whole history of the last 10 years would have been different if Dr. Fauci had just come clean. And again, we're still paying the price today. Look how much money Congress wasted on PPP loans and things to keep the economy stimulated during COVID. All because one man lied, one man who had too much power, and we have an opportunity to hold him accountable, and hopefully the Trump administration will do that.
Wow, just extraordinary stuff, Congressman. Thanks so much. We'll be following your work, Mr. Chairman.
Now, kind of recaps what a lot of people probably remember, but still it puts it into, at least a fluid thought process. Now, to the point of, the information Fauci had, and if he would have shared, what kind of impact would that have had as far as whether it would have been with Vice President Pence at the time or President Trump, or however that information would have went. And everybody could argue. The point that I'm trying to make right now is Fauci knows unequivocally that the crime stacked against him right now, that if found guilty, we're talking capital punishment. He understands that. This little guy, this little demon, is not brave nor courageous. So what that tells me is this guy is going to talk about everything. Everything. And we need him to. Because he was not the one that orchestrated it. He was the one with the science and the knowledge and education to facilitate it. But this was something still that he was still taking orders from someone else. Granted, he got the popularity and the income and the notoriety and all that out of it. But he knows what is coming for him. And he knows that mainstream media is acknowledging it. Take a look at this clip. This one's short. I don't think we have any long ones until the very end of the show now. But take a listen to this. Listen to what CNBC says here.
One of the reasons you'd want a trial. Pardon, and he's got pardon going forward, pardon going backwards. I don't know whether those stand up, but 2 years ago, David Sachs, I'm sure you know him, he said this explains exactly how he orchestrated the pandemic, or at least knew about gain-of-function research, and then changed the story. And I tweeted at the time, can someone explain to me why Dems line up to defend this guy? Can you explain why Democrats have lined up to defend Fauci when it was clear as the nose on your face what had happened?
I think he represents Big Brother in public health, the Big Brother that tells you what to do, doesn't give you advice, but commands you and tells you what to do. And the left really is fine with an authoritarian approach to medicine. But to give
The point that I wanted you guys to catch, hopefully you caught it, is he says, well, and we know he orchestrated it. They're literally acknowledging that it was fake. Like, this is mainstream media. And some would wonder, well, and he's saying, why would the Democrats try to, defend him? The same reason you're trying to act like you knew that it was a plandemic all along instead of a pandemic, because you're trying to save face. These guys are trying to protect Fauci because they know if he talks, they're all screwed. They're all doomed. If Fauci talks and starts giving out information, the entire house of cards on the pandemic part of the deep state operation collapses, which is why I put a post out a few days ago saying the DOJ needs to arrest Fauci and bring him into custody, not because we want to see him in hooks. I know that's what everybody wants, because they need to put this guy in protective custody. I'm telling you, there's zero doubts in my mind that the deep state has already put into process something to make this guy's life be cut short. You guys know what I'm talking about there. Sorry, I didn't want to cough in your guys' ears. They need to put Fauci in protective custody. They need to arrest him and secure him and protect him so that this guy can testify. That is what needs to happen. Let's keep going because we're not done without Chief Fauci. Senator Ron Johnson comes out and says, just as the legacy media ignored my report on the FDA's cover-up, they are now ignoring Tulsi Gabbard's report on Fauci lies. Until the legacy media starts reporting on and treating these scandals as news, the public will remain unaware and corrupt actors will not be fully exposed. And like you saw on CNBC, they're not covering it now, or briefly at least, insinuating that Fauci orchestrated it because they want public awareness. They're doing it because they're trying to save face. They're doing it because they know when the court of public opinion comes to indict everybody that was involved with this, that their companies and news anchors and reporters are all going to fall right into that same, guilt by association and facilitation. That's what's going to happen. And that's what's going on. Let's take a listen to this video clip right here.
One of the reasons you'd want a trial is to have the discovery and get people under oath. I mean, personally, I doubt Fauci would testify in his own defense because, he'd either have to perjure himself or he'd have to self-incriminate. He probably wouldn't do that. So he'd probably get taken the fifth all the time. But accountability starts with exposure, but exposure needs to occur across the media. It can't just be confined to outlets like Newsmax and others who actually cover this. Yes. You need the legacy media to turn this into a story. Because until they do it, it's just not news.
Now, one thing I do anticipate as this gains traction and we start to get, as more information starts to develop from it, and I'm not talking about opinion and speculation that we know is going to get confirmed anyways. Don't use my words against me here. I'm just saying stuff that we know is fact, but still is going to be graded as speculation because the evidence hasn't caught up with it yet. As that happens, I think we're going to see a mainstream push. And I think as the hardcore stuff from elections starts to surface, like what we're starting to see right now, I think we're going to see that same thing happening with Fauci and the bioweapons that got put into everybody's body. Well, why do you say that, Alpha? Because what have I been saying for the last couple months? All this was always designed to come into a choke point. It was always designed to come into a fatal funnel as we approached midterms to completely discombobulate, rug pull, and subvert the deep state. That what you're seeing right now is the white hats doing a coup against the deep state. That's what this is all about. Now, before we shift gears here, I saw a couple of Rumble rants come in. I think we saw some super chats come in too. So let's catch up on this with the people that support this show. $2 coming in from Bucklebrush Jones. It's a pretty cool name. I like it. PBS special on Georgia voting machines where they admit that they are broken. That's over there on YouTube. Thank you for that, Buckle. You guys, that link's right there in the chat. I'll grab that and put it in the comments as well. $10 coming in from Captain Willie Grimm. Damn, Alpha ain't playing. I'm not playing. I'm fired up with this stuff because I know where we're going. And I understand how important this public indictment against the establishment and everybody else is. But just as important as the indictment is the court of public opinion to support Trump on what I know is coming. both those things have to exist at the same time. And that's what kind of frustrates me sometimes with some of my friends and counterparts, that, they're pushing one but not the other. And if this thing doesn't get in there some reasonably balance, it starts to become unpredictable. And so with that, let's get into our last Rumble ad of the evening, because let me go full screen with me just to make it easier for you guys on that QR code. Rumble took care of us when nobody else did. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part most people miss. Crypto was created so that you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you've felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today. Everybody's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. Just bought some stuff today. It takes all the complexity and it makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stable coins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay so that you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. And you can use, again, like I said, you can use that Rumble Wallet to drop some Rumble rants here on Rumble too. And again, if you didn't see that QR code, it's because you got to be over here in Rumble. And if you're watching the replay and you're listening and not watching, you can grab that link that's going to be down in the chat in a little bit. And we have another Rumble rant that came in. Miss Rhea Freedom Fighter, I told y'all she was watching. She goes, $17. Why are you mad at me? What I do? LOL. Just playing. And then let's get to, I think I saw a couple super chats come in. I did. Looks like L Sorter. I can drop this up on the screen for you guys. Just became a YouTube member. L Sorter 2495. Thank you for joining the family. I hope you enjoy some of the stuff we're going to be doing for you guys here. And then also we got James Alex Rohrback, $2 super chat. Machil, like Ralph Machil, the Karate Kid. I don't know, James. I'm still butchering that name, man. Why you gotta make me do it again? Put me on blast like that. I appreciate it though. And then Daniel Whitley, 2029, with his $2 super chat. Did you see the JPY alpha? Interesting timing. It's not ringing a bell. Why is JPY not ringing a bell? Somebody help me out with JPY so this way I can appropriately answer this question, because for whatever reason, that's not computing with me. So I'll keep an eye on the chat while you guys drop that in there for me to figure it out. But okay, we're going to shift gears. Now, we're going to get into the fun part here, and this will probably lead us into the last segment for tonight. And then it'll tee us up for the other part for tomorrow. Tomorrow's the earlier show for those of you on the East Coast, but you're definitely gonna have a lot of fun with this one. And I'm trying to look to see JPY. Y'all got me so curious. You guys know how to do squirrel for me, so what the heck is JPY? See, Alan's with me. What's JPY? I want to know what JPY is too. I feel like it's going to be hard to go on with the show if somebody doesn't provide us some clarification. Daniel says the Japanese yen. U.S. major market shake-up loading. You know what? Tomorrow on DEF CON, I will bring that up, because while we're at, I think it was dinner, or maybe we're having some drinks at the bar, and Josh brought up this, like, somebody had brought up the U.S. dollar, kind of what's going on, and the yen and some other things. And Josh, because the guy just knows pretty much everything, right? You ask him the right question and it'll provide you great stuff. He provide this explanation of how this stuff is all kind of unfolding, and it was absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to make a note right now to cover that on DEF CON. So watch tomorrow DEF CON. Again, if you guys have never heard of DEF CON or seen it, we do that show. It's on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, and it's on Badlands, or it's on Rumble if you're watching as well. But it's on the channel of Badlands Media. That's the other channel where I do podcasts at. And that's tomorrow night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And it's called DEF CON 0. I think you guys will like that. Let's see, Elaine, not good. Alpha, it's Machio. Oh, Machio. See, that's what I like. I like when you guys put it in a way. See, I can read Machio. Thank you, Elaine, not God. So that's what y'all need to do for me. Like help a brother out, right? You know, it's late. My head hurts. Still trying to get back into my rhythm of things. I know it's not an excuse. I would have jacked that up even if we were just flowing. All right, let's get into the last part, the fun part. That's going to be some interesting stuff. And hopefully you guys caught on to this. With that, we're going to go right here. MAGA Voice puts out, let's go. Caroline, press secretary, comes out and just said America will be putting on the biggest fireworks show the world has ever seen for 4th of July. Caroline looks stunning. Let's play this real quick, and then and I know you guys are wondering, what the hell's so important about the press secretary? Stick with me, guys. You're going to be like, I promise you, at the end of the segment, you're going to be like, holy shit.
The fireworks are going to go off around 10:30.
Yes.
You have a baby.
I know.
And you have a toddler.
It's past bedtime.
Will you be staying up?
It's past bedtime. It's a family discussion we have to have if it's worth keeping two very young children up that late and then ruining July 5th. But I think it's going to be worth it. It's going to be the largest fireworks show in the history of the world. So I'm told. So I feel like it's a must-see event.
So even if you don't keep them up on purpose, they'll be up. They'll hear it.
I think so. I think they're going to hear it.
It's going to be the largest fireworks show in world history. But again, she says, so I'm told. So obviously she's not present, and you know, whoever's planning this event, but she goes, so I'm told. And we know she's been pretty accurate about the things she's told. The largest fireworks show the world has ever seen. Just remember fireworks. All right. And if you forget, don't worry, I'm going to bring you back to it anyways. So then let's get into this post by the White House. The time for waiting is over. America's elections must be secured with the Save America Act. No more games. Save America's elections. This was from June 25th. 1:21 my time, which translates into 4:21 or 6 Eastern time, or 16:21. So let's go and visit 1621. And what do you see highlighted there? Yes, fireworks. Let's read this whole post. Dated June 28th. We remember you, Mr. VIP. A link to the old Twitter with QAnon Baby, which is the account that's been suspended. Where we go one, we go all. Where did the storm derive from? These are all going to support each other. It is wild how all these came together. My mind's still blown. Some things leave lasting impressions. Listen carefully. When did POTUS make the statement? When did we arrive to start the awakening? You have more than you know. Fireworks. So again, let's just rewind. We go back to press secretary. Says it's going to be the biggest fireworks show we've ever heard. So I'm told. You know, babies aren't even going to be able to sleep. So I'm told, right? Then we move into the White House's posts, right? The time for waiting is over. America's elections must be secured with the Save America Act. Save all caps, not America Act. No more games. Save American elections, right? And again, timestamp of 4:21, which translates into military time, 16:21. And then when we go to post 16:21, we get fireworks. But just remember some of these other things that we covered. And when we go to that link, so right here, right? This link right here from YouTube, it takes us to this one. And I have this for you. Give me 1 second. And I will tell you guys, go and watch the movie White Squall. Hopefully we can push this endorsement without getting one of those YouTube hand slaps. But this is so important. Even if you guys have watched this movie, even if you've seen the trailer, just do me a solid. Pay attention to words that are in here, some of the phrases that are in here. You guys will understand why. So again, this comes from the post that came from the White House timestamp, right? And this is the trailer for the movie White Squall. It's a 1996 movie trailer. Listen to this.
The ship beneath you is not a toy. Sailing's not a game.
So why the hell do it?
Bill's character, Mr. Preston, of which you are in desperately short supply.
They came from different places.
And this Ocean Academy isn't recognized as accredited.
It'll be a good thing, Dad.
They sailed for different reasons.
I don't want to be what I was when I left.
There you go.
anonymous.
But there was only one way.
We'll do it together.
I can't.
Climb!
To survive on his ship.
I will challenge them, and they will come together.
Become a team.
Where we go one, we go all.
Because where he was taking them
What are they doing?
Claiming their place in the world.
could not be measured in miles. They thought they had survived the greatest challenge of their lives.
We had come through every kind of seas imaginable.
Except a white squall.
But it was only
White squalls are a phenomenon of the imagination.
the calm
What happened to my ship was not imagined.
before the storm. Largo Entertainment presents a film about loyalty.
Where we go one,
We go all. Discovery
But we're a crew. That's what this whole thing is about.
and courage.
Don't you walk out on this, Skipper, you don't! Captain, they're only boys. We listened to you, we believed you!
they're much more than that, sir.
And we are still here!
Jeff Bridges in a Ridley Scott film. White Squall. Based on a true story.
Again, go watch that movie. But again, if you've never seen that trailer before, what phrases do you hear in there? Where we go one, we go all, right? Stamped on that little bell, belonged to JFK, right? What else did you hear? You hear one of the kids or young men saying, I don't want to be anonymous anymore. And what's one thing that is very understood within the truth community? There's a lot of anons, right? What's another thing that was brought up? The storm, right? It has all these correlations to the stuff that we talk about. But again, how did we get to this? How did we get to this video clip that is talking about, where we go one and the storm and anonymous? And again, that comes from this Q post. Remember, context matters. This is one of the things that I love about the conversations that me and Josh have when it comes to Q stuff. Context. Not only does this post show context to the storm of what's going on, but it shows relevant to a post when it talks about fireworks. And why does that matter? Because again, this goes up to what the press secretary is saying about the biggest show that the world has ever seen. And then we get into no more games. That's going to come into play because we're still not done. I just want to make sure that I keep all this stuff fresh as we push on. So now let's go back in time to September of last year. Elon Musk posts, follow the rabbit. And he posts as a white rabbit, right? He does this at 2:21 my time, which would be 5:21 East Coast time. And this was a response to Siobhan Zilis that says, wake up, Neo, right? Talking about the Matrix, right? But if we go to this timestamp from Elon, that takes us right here to 1721, July 27th, right? And in here, we have, when does a bird sing? Pretty relevant given the indictments and arrests we've seen. Keep your promise. This is not a game. Again, when does a bird sing? Keep your promise. This is not a game. Let's go all the way back to no more games from President Trump. And let's keep going to why. How does all this come together? There's a woman that I interviewed on this podcast a while back. You guys probably remember her face, Truth Seeker. And we're talking about cell memory. It was a great show a couple of years ago. I might even bring her back on. Actually, I will bring her back on, especially for this conversation. But everything that we just talked about in this last 20 minutes of this last segment, she's going to kind of bring it all together to make sense. Not to just what we've talked about, but everything involving Fauci and COVID. It is just mind-blowing when I saw her create this video and bring it all together. So with that, Truth Seeker 01011 says, the connections in this video are a bit scattered like my brain, but the series Utopia explains how Alice goes down a rabbit hole and discovers their plans for COVID and the symbolism it all represents. Now, she does a good job, but I'm going to add a little bit towards the end to kind of just piece it together a little bit more. But with that, enjoy this video. It's about 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm a little too excited to make this video because there's so many connections and patterns that I'm about to like put together, including looping in a video I did 5 years ago, which kind of like goes even further into like the rabbit hole thing. But I'm gonna just play you this video, and then I'm gonna try and like calm down and then, you know, explain how the pattern and the connections I found. Okay, so I'm just autistically info dumping right now. You guys, please forgive me.
Hey, Helen. I know you're an Ottawa police detective, and I know you raised some concern about some COVID-19 vaccine-related incidents, and that you presented real evidence to your superiors, and you got shut down. And you chose to keep going, and to ask questions, and that took a lot of courage. And I know you're facing some heat because of that.
So this is the cool part. John Cusack was actually part of a series on Amazon called Utopia. Let me just show you. It actually involves telling you exactly what is going to happen in the pandemic, before the pandemic, and it was originally copied from a British series in 2016. Remember that like number, because like it all kind of comes together. The main character in that is named Alice, and a bunch of people get together online and start to realize that they're putting out like information and little tidbits about how the COVID thing is going to happen. And basically it explains everything, including the boop de boop and how unhealthy it is. I'm not even kidding. Let me just show you. So this is the Amazon original Utopia. You guys should go watch it. It literally came out in 2019, got canceled after the first season because it was so accurate and was creating so much like, you know, online from like the elbow up window licking liberals who were all pro like pushing the you know what. Super good. Now, if you're like, what does this have to do with anything? I made a video about 5 years ago telling you guys about like Alice in Wonderland and Tactic Alice and Exercise Alice in this video. This video that went ultra viral at 1.5 million views, it basically talks about why Elon Musk wrote Follow the White Rabbit. And if you're wondering, Exercise Alice was a Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome pandemic modeling exercise conducted by the UK government officials in February of 2016. And if you're wondering, the CIA's Alice in Wonderland technique explained. Pause to read. And if you're wondering what happened to Helen Gruss, the Ottawa police detective found guilty of discreditable conduct in unauthorized investigation into child. Now, John Cusack must have known that the entire pandemic or plandemic was all a plan, because in that series, and I swear you guys should watch it, they basically tell you how they put clues out online to tell you what they're about to do and why they're about to do it. And if you have the discernment and eyes to see, you will know exactly what they like are trying to plan for us. Wild how like everything just came full circle, dude.
So, with that being said, and this and as much fun as this last segment was, it's not. Wait till you get tomorrow's part 2 of Just Alpha, because we're gonna roll right into. I'll cover some headlines from today and tomorrow to get us warmed up. But it's gonna blow your mind even more. Like we're gonna be perfectly set up for our DEF CON conversation. So just remember, tomorrow night the show's gonna be a lot earlier. I'm gonna add the bow to this, but before everybody starts to leave, I want to make sure you guys know what time to come in. We have DEF CON at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, and that's gonna be on Badlands Media. Whether you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, you got to go find Badlands Media. Just Alpha 2.0 is going to start tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. That's 5:30 p.m. Pacific. So 8:30 p.m. Eastern, because it's roughly going to take us about 2 hours to do tomorrow's show, or at a minimum, at least an hour and a half. So those are the time. So where are we going here, and how does this translate into all these posts? Press Secretary Caroline's, the war games, and they're actually going to tie into some more that we're going to show tomorrow. But how does it tie in? What's coming 4th of July that's going to be the biggest fireworks show ever? We're talking, what, 5 days? 4 days for some of you guys that are already past the midnight hour. It's 2,300 hours over here in Cali. Are we going to see sometime in the next few days a major arrest or a major indictment? And is that going to be Fauci? Is it going to be Stroke or Lisa Page to go back to the Russia hoax, Crossfire Hurricane, Crossfire Razor? Something is on the brink that is giving these people motivation, and we're going to see in the next few days. Aside from, yes, we have the great American fair that Trump's putting together for our 250th. Trump is going to do something to put morale at its highest before we get into this next phase of what's going to be happening with the midterm operation that I've been telling you about. And so I anticipate that we are probably about to see a major indictment or a major arrest in the next few days. And I think this is going to be one of the things that they're talking about. Is it Fauci? It definitely might be that way. Captain Willigrim says, Barry Sotero, I would love for it, but I don't think we come for him yet. Lonesome Fugitive says, Brennan. Brennan could be the one, but I think Brennan's still a little bit farther down the line. As we see the Middle East purge going on, Captain Willie, I think a lot of that stuff's going to resurface stuff that's going to implicate John Brennan. So both two guys, Barry Sotero and Brennan, great picks by both of you guys. But I think those are a little farther down the line, given what we've been talking about right now with the Ouchie Fauci and the election stuff. I think it's going to be something that's more closely related to those right now. But if it was one of those guys, I'd be happy as hell because I would love B.O. or John Brennan to get arrested or indicted. Either one would make me happy. So let me pull this off the screen, go full size with me. There we go. I just want to tell you guys, great to be back. Felt a little rusty tonight. Hopefully I shake most of it off. I felt pretty good as we bring it into the end here. And then again, tomorrow's night show, we'll be back into our rhythm. But if you guys haven't done so already, smash the thumb, hit the heart, leave a comment, and please share out this content. It is free content. So when you guys share it, it does help me grow the audience. 2, I don't have a chance to get to every sponsor, partnership, or affiliate. There's a lot of people that help with their companies to, give me commission to keep myself self-sustained. And so I can keep this stuff free. So when you guys have a chance, and if you're in a financial position to do some, go down to the description and, click on some of the links of the people that helped me. And again, thingsofholding.com tonight, if you want to get some of those F-bomb jars or any of the other funny stuff that they have. She has some great decals. These are all great patriots. It's really hard to try to pedestal one over another when they all mean a lot to the show and they all mean a lot to our community. So go and support them. Not just with my channel, any channel you guys are out there visiting. Remember, the majority of these people, the content is free, so we rely on a lot of the ads and sponsorships, which I know is not the best part of the shows, but it is business, and if we've done it for so long, let's do it for our community. The other thing that I'll ask is that you guys say a special prayer for my cousin. She's my younger cousin, and she lost her husband of nearly 20 years. And he was a good guy. And she's a very sweet person. And I just learned this news a few hours ago from my little brother. And I can't even imagine the hurt and weight that my little cousin's going through. It breaks my heart. He was a father, to some little ones, and not so little ones anymore. But please say a special prayer for my little cousin. And also with that, folks, if you're fighting with someone right now, that's family or a friend, tomorrow ain't always promised. So just evaluate it and just ask yourself, is the fight worth it? Especially if it's a loved one, husband, a wife, a child, or a parent. We don't want regrets. So with that, I'm going to close out in prayer. And then I have an amazing video on the way out for you guys tonight that you guys are going to enjoy. Remember, tap into tomorrow's show, because if you like the way this one finished, we're going to hit the ground running pretty quick tomorrow. Like I said, we'll cover a couple of headlines, and then we're going to get right into where we left off tonight. Father, thank you for another day of life. Thank you for my audience. Thank you for a great event at GART. Thank you for getting me there safely. Thank you for getting me home safely. even though you made the trip a little bouncy, you definitely got my attention. Father, there's a lot of people in my audience tonight that all have something that they're carrying, some smaller than others, and some a weight that they feel like they can't even carry anymore. Father, I ask that if it's something that you can heal them from or solve for them, heal it and solve it. If it's something that's there because it's meant to bring them closer to you, or it's meant for something for a greater purpose in their life, then I ask that you at least give them peace and strength to handle it. Father, I ask that you be with my little cousin tonight and her children and their family as they lost a great man and father. And Father, to everybody that has lost someone close today or recently, bring these people peace and let them feel your love at a time when the world seems to have just fallen apart. Father, thank you for continuing to keep us in this fight. Father, I ask that you continue to guide me and help me to keep my ego and motive out of this show. Father, we ask and we pray all this in your son Jesus' name. Amen. Folks, if you haven't done so already, please smash the thumb, hit the heart. I'm going to take a look just to make sure we didn't miss any Rumble rants or super chats. And looks like we got them all on the super chat. So we're covered there and we're covered on the Rumble rants. Again, for everybody that supported tonight through Rumble rants and super chats, thank you. For everybody that has become a subscriber, whether it's on X, YouTube, Substack, Rumble, where it is. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for keeping me in this fight. And with that, I hope you guys enjoy this video. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good night. God bless. First in, last out.
At the crux of the theory is this belief that you are secretly saving the world from this satanic cult of pedophiles and cannibals. Does that sound like something you are behind?
Well, I haven't heard that, but is that supposed to be a bad thing or a good thing? I mean, you know, if I can help save the world from problems, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to put myself out there. No, I don't want to say, but you'd be surprised.
Who is Q? You'll never know, folks. I'm not sure. Or maybe I know and I just can't tell you. Who do you guys think it is, out of curiosity? Q is Trump? I don't know.
Perhaps the most profound moment of the last decade of my career occurred in March of 17. I got home about 10:45, 11 o'clock at night. My wife's already in bed. I pull in the driveway and there's a blue sedan sitting in front of my mailbox with this yellow fog lights on. And I pull in the driveway and these two GI men get out of their car. It's about 11 o'clock at night. And as I'm getting out of my car, I say, "Are you Mr. Solomon?" I'm like, "I don't know, am I being arrested? What's going on?" They can throw cuffs on me. Did I break some classified secret I shouldn't today? And they're like, "You don't know who we are. We can't tell you who we are, but you're at the tip of a very large iceberg, and we hope you drill into it." And I'm like, "What in God's name are you guys talking about?" "Well, that thing you were reporting on television." Yeah, it's a FISA court filing. It is the apex of a very large scandal, and you need to drill down in it. And all right, walk me through this guy. "Well, we can't tell you. It's all classified." "Okay, that's not very helpful. Can you give me something of more generic description?" "Yeah, we work in the intelligence committee, and our agencies were asked to participate in one of the greatest political dirty tricks in history. And if it isn't stopped, and one day when it is uncovered, we will lose the tools that keep you and I safe at night. We won't be able to find terrorists and we won't find spies because these tools will be taken from us because we abused them in the last couple of years." I'm like, holy mackerel, what's going on here? And so they couldn't give me much more detail, but they inspired me to start wondering about whether I was missing something big. And I got home by that time, and there were 20 minutes, it was about 11:20 at night. From 11:20 at night to 2 in the morning, I wrote a long email to my then work sister, Sarah Carter, who was just a fantastic reporter. Sarah and I had just begun working on what we called the NSA abuse stories where we were working.
I remember being approached by, let's say, federal law enforcement officers who had told me, "You really need to dig into what's happened to Lieutenant General Flynn. Apparently, there's a lot been going on inside the FBI look at Andrew McCabe, focus on some of these characters. It was the same thing that happened to John. I started focusing in and just really taking a step back, saying what's going on here. And the more we started to investigate, little by little, we started peeling back what we call the onion, right? The layers of the onion. It really felt like that. So then I think it can't get much worse than this.
I knew that we had a big problem on our hands. In this very room, luckily we had some patriots that came forward from the intelligence community, said, look, they were doing some really bad things with unmasking, so you need to know about this, and essentially showed me how to go find it. I'm not going to get into too much of the unmasking of my sources, because they're patriots, and to this day nobody knows who they are, and I'm going to keep it that way. The morons in the press think they know who it is. We're the House Intelligence Committee. We just deal with the 17 intelligence agencies.
So how would you go about finding the real Q?
I don't think it's worth doing. I think what you should be focusing on is not Q. You should be focusing on the Great Awakening.
And what's the distinction there?
The Great Awakening is in the heart and soul of the public.
What is the Great Awakening?
I think the Great Awakening is people are starting to realize that if they don't pay attention and govern themselves, they will become slaves.